Hey, we're live. This is my first live stream as an AI YouTuber. So this is going to be real interesting. Hopefully it's not total amateur hour, but thanks everybody for hanging out. We've got about 55 people watching, and I think a handful more are going to be jumping in. And I've got some awesome guests joining us on this live stream today. I've got Revolved from run-diffusion, which we'll be talking about what run-diffusion is. It's basically a cloud version of Stable Diffusion where you could run Stable Diffusion in the cloud. We got Huemin joining us, one of the original creators of Deforum, joining us on this call today. So we're going to try to create like a full-on masterclass in this all around Deforum. So if you don't know what Deforum is, or you do know what it is, and you don't know how to use it yet, or you have any questions lingering about Deforum after you've spent some time playing around with it, ideally we're going to cover all of that in this call today. So it should be really fun, really interesting, really informative. Have no idea how long we're going to end up going. We're just going to go until we've answered questions and everybody's got a good idea of what you can do with the forum here. So I'm not going to ramble for too long. I just want to get straight into the content, get into what everybody came here for. And I'm going to introduce you to our first and main guest of the show today. I'm going to bring on Revolved here. He is one of the guys over at run-diffusion. He is the guy he's like their expert in Deforum. Him and I have had a handful of conversations. He knows what he's talking about. He's got some stuff lined up that he's going to share with you today. So I'm excited to bring him on. So here is Revolved. Thanks so much for joining us. Excited to get into this. Before we get in, do you want to just real quickly let us know a little bit about run-diffusion and what your role there is there, and go ahead and roll into a little bit of what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, I've been with run-diffusion for a little bit now. Run-diffusion came out, wow, like October. So, the AI space moves quick, right? The solution for run-diffusion is basically we took the idea of making it as easy as possible for people to get into Stable Diffusion. Automatic 1111 is like a fantastic tool, but it's very complicated. There's a lot of depth to it. And what we really wanted to do is just take all that part about like installing it and configuring it, make it easy to use, pop it up instantly as fast as possible so you can just get right to creating art.
Awesome.
Yeah, and my role there, so I was actually just started in the Discord helping people out, and they brought me on as I have a background in software, like in particular around revenue and sales. But I'm also a video artist and an artist myself. So as you can see in the background over, oh wait, here. I've got like a video synth running, and this up here, this poster is a video art conference that I used to hold in the States. So yeah, video art is in my blood, whether that's analog pointing a camcorder at a TV and watching that infinite hall of mirrors feedback thing happen, or more complicated stuff with the hardware synths. I just love it. I love like VJing. I love art and cinematic stuff too. So as soon as I saw that AI video was coming in, I was very, very pumped, especially when I started seeing the Deforum videos. I was blown away what people were able to make with it, and knew I had to be doing that. So yeah, when I saw run-diffusion, I don't have a very good GPU. I have like a AMD, like it must be like 4 gig or something like that.
Yeah, well, it seems like Stable Diffusion, they mostly want NVIDIA cards anyway, right? You kind of, it seems like even the good AMDs are having problems with it if you don't have NVIDIA.
Yeah, there's ways around, but it's like a lot of extra steps to get AMD cards working, and they're just a little slower to the draw on like drivers and stuff like that. NVIDIA's definitely been cutting edge even in like streaming tech for a long time, so they've got the edge for now, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, very exciting. So like, I know what you and I have had a few discussions about where we wanted to kind of take this, and we're going to get into the details and all of the, showing some stuff off. One thing I wanted to do real quick, just, before we get too deep into it, is for anybody that doesn't know exactly what Deforum is, I did actually upload a couple of videos in here to kind of show off some of the stuff that I made in Deforum. One of them I made on camera on one of my tutorial videos. One of them I made off camera. So this was the first video I made right here that you can see on the screen. And I put it up on Twitter, and it kind of went viral on Twitter. And this was just me saying, turn a monkey into an astronaut.
Awesome.
And, that was the video that came out of it. So that's the type of stuff Deforum does. This is another one that I made that starts with a wolf because, my last name's a wolf. And then it kind of morphs into a lion here. And then it morphs into a tiger. And then it's supposed to morph into a
a shark that needs a dentist. Yeah.
So anybody who doesn't know what Deforum is, it makes those kinds of videos. If you're in the AI space right now and you're on Twitter, you've probably seen that kind of stuff circulating, a lot of those types of videos. And so that's Deforum that's doing a lot of that. And a lot of the tools that are out there that you see that make those kinds of videos, they're using Deforum underneath the hood as well. So, you're seeing a lot of Deforum floating around out there in the AI video space. But what we wanted to get into was a little bit of the mindset around this and how to approach Deforum, kind of set your expectations of what it can do and what it can't do and what you should expect from it. So maybe that's a good place to start. And let's just jump into the deep end here.
Yeah, I think this is a really important piece of just AI art in general. Is the space is so new. There's just like new stuff coming out every day. There's like advances, new services, and just people who are contributing to this open source community, which is just incredible to watch this stuff kind of come together in real time. And it's beautiful, but there has to be like a certain way of approaching things because it's all so new. So an example of this is like, if you're going into things and wanting to achieve a certain goal, you see a video online, you're like, okay, I want to do that exact thing. It's really good to just like kind of try to dive into the nuts and bolts. I mean, I know like when prompting and images came along, someone would post a cool picture and then everyone would be in the comments below it like, what's the prompt? What's the prompt? What's the prompt? I want to try the prompt, and it's like kind of funny. I don't think there's much hand holding in the AI art space. And we're lucky that it's just mostly because it's moving fast. And the kind of stuff that we're doing, I've seen in the communities like Matt, what you're doing with these videos, YouTube, like people who are doing their own documentation, sharing on Discord, like those are all amazing resources to help figure things out. But a lot of the stuff is so new that there's just not much out there for it. And so the attitude that I've taken as an artist going into it is like, okay, I need to explore this, be willing to make mistakes, and try as much stuff as possible, which is a really, really important attitude to have, especially when you're working with Deforum. We'll go into like some ways that will help you from wasting time. But I think that it's just so important to have that like experimental mindset and that curiosity, because the curiosity is really key for doing that. So that's the attitude I've tried to take, is to just not like, look to copy things one for one, but to learn as much as I can. Now, that being said, there's some incredible settings that people have found out there. And a lot of times that will be what gets you started. That's the training wheels. And once you have the training wheels, tweaking things a little bit is going to help you get that last step. But there's little breadcrumbs everywhere on like, Twitter, Discord, Reddit, YouTube. They're all kind of out there. And then you kind of piece it together into this picture.
Yeah.
Anyways. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, it's funny because that's always my first thought whenever I get on Twitter and I see one of these videos is I want to know what the prompts are. Not necessarily because I want to make the exact same video, but one of the tricks when it comes to prompting is all of the additional sort of keywords that you can add to the end of a prompt to get the images to look a certain way. So it's never really necessary. I want to recreate the same exact image, but I want to know, how did you get that look to it? How did you get that level of contrast to it? How did you get, that sort of colorization or style to it? And I feel like that's one of the big reasons everybody's always asking for those prompts. And so that might be another sort of rabbit hole we can go down a little bit once we actually start digging into Deforum a little bit, is some of the additional keywords and little tricks and things that you can add to the prompts to get those like those those
Yeah.
really good looking images out of your videos.
Yeah, I do feel like there's a couple metaphors I would use. Like one is like when you're making AI art, you are exploring
Mm,
and you can really find things that people have not seen before while exploring this space, which I think is incredible because as an artist, like, there's so much art that's been done and there's so much like that has already taken place. But this AI art is a totally new field and there's so many new ways that you can explore things and using it in different contexts and mediums as well, which is a really interesting piece. But going back to the prompt piece of it,
yeah.
because we're all kind of looking for that gold, right? Um, and I think that there's sort of a almost like an alchemy. It's not like a science. It's like the old like Middle Ages, like pouring sulfur and like strange liquids together and not quite knowing why the result you get is the result. Like it's a fun sort of thing to be a part of, this sort of alchemy. And on the one hand, you might like feel sometimes while doing this, like, oh, I'm just like banging rocks together, hoping to make fire, right? Like we're sometimes we just don't know what we're doing with the AI tools. But by slowly trying to like understand the fundamentals of it, you can really accelerate your progress in the field and make some incredible stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, this whole thing, this is new. I don't know how the whole flow of this thing is going to go, but do we want to explain what run diffusion is? So, the videos that I put on YouTube, it started off with me showing you how to locally install automatic 1111 and stable diffusion, and then Deforum is sort of an add-on that you can add into automatic 1111, and it sort of starts to get convoluted once you have all of these layers of what you need to do, right? You need to have Python installed, you need to have like your git bash installed, and then you need to get into automatic 1111, and then you got to add this Deforum plugin on top of it, and there's all of these sort of layers of complexity to get to where you can finally start generating with Deforum, right? And I feel like that's where run diffusion comes in. And this isn't meant to be like a webinar to pitch run diffusion or anything, but quite honestly, with something like run diffusion, you can just sort of jump on the cloud, right? If you have an AMD processor that doesn't really like to
Just rub it in, man.
process stuff with stable diffusion, or if you're on a Mac, Macs don't seem to really like working with stable diffusion very well. If you're on an older computer, you can't really do this stuff super easily. Or even if you have a decent graphics card, sometimes it just takes forever to process it because maybe it's an older graphics card, maybe it's an older Nvidia card, and that's where I feel like something like run diffusion, where you can just go do this in the cloud, and depending on time versus money, you can spend 50 cents an hour and go and run this stuff in the cloud. Or if you just want it really really quick, you can pay a little bit more, use a little bit higher end GPU, and get the stuff done a little bit faster. And that's where I feel like run diffusion really comes in. So maybe let's talk really quickly about the what run diffusion is and some of the benefits of it. I feel like I gave some of the benefits, but you might have even more context because you're working at run diffusion every day.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe I can share my screen here. Let's
Yeah.
see. And then we can like kind of get that screen share started. Here we go. There's a comment I just loved here. Like, we are like ad mech tech priests from Warhammer 40,000. As a 40K player, I appreciate that. Back in the day, yeah.
I
I
love
really
it.
feel like that's kind of what's going on. If you don't know, they like worship the machine. They're like their religion is the machine. The AI stuff, we just like put in our incantations of these like random prompts and out comes something incredible. It is kind of the way things are going.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah. Okay. So we got the screen up. So I'm logged in already to Run Diffusion, and I'll just kind of talk things through. We have like a few different things here. So automatic and invoke. Invokes like an in painting, out painting thing. Automatic is kind of what everyone's using, especially for Deforum. That's the only place you'll get Deforum on here, and then you can choose the model. And I'm on our creators club, which gives you private storage, so you can load in custom models, embeddings, all of that, and then they'll persist from one session to another, which can be really helpful in getting things going. I think that like what you were saying, Matt, about like the having a GPU, maybe you want to do things faster.
Hmm.
This is something where you can use these while you're using your local GPU. So people will do things like train on their local and then take the models that they're working on, pop it into here and start, seeing what the previews are like, messing with it. You can do the same thing with Deforum videos.
Hmm.
So the idea that we have here is let's get one going here. I'll just launch one. So we have a timer that lets we'll basically shut it off after a certain amount of time, so you're not wasting money. There's an API as well, so we'll just launch this. So it takes a little bit to get this set up, but it's quite fast, especially if you've tried doing this in the cloud before. I think that in regards to where we sit, like we're really trying to just provide the fastest and easiest to use service. That's like our goal. And as well to provide an extra level of support for things. So, although we don't know the answer to everything in Automatic 1111 because it's changing every day and it's complicated, we're doing things like trying to make sure that it's the most stable version of Automatic 1111, so we don't have people running into errors, and we support them with like any issues that they're having. So that support and training and Discord help is included in that, and we want to make sure that we're providing kind of the best and most stable diffusion you can get.
Yeah.
Stable diffusion. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Uh,
I see Dave in the comments saying that he noticed he jumped on the $2.50 one. They do have a 50-cent version, but because we're live, we want to keep the pace of the
oh
the
yeah.
generations going. So we're definitely going to use the fastest version we can just for the sake of being live. But yeah, they do definitely have a 50 cents an hour version. And when I was demonstrating it in some of my videos on YouTube, that was the version I was using. So
Yeah, when I was doing Deforum like on my own before I even joined, there we go. We're already up here. So when I was, what happened here? Diffuse Master. This is a good one. It's always live. I was just using this. I've never had that issue before. All right, so we'll try it again. We don't charge for starting it up or spinning it down, so no big issue there.
Yeah,
Uh,
and that is one thing I noticed too is, when you're first signing up to and you're logging in, it says like how much time do you want to use, and you can set it as an hour. That's not meant to be like you're going to pay for an hour. That's more of like a safety net. If you like walk away from your computer and forget about it, it'll turn it off after an hour so it doesn't keep spending. But if you're only in there for 10 minutes and then log out, it only actually spends 10 minutes worth of spend.
Yeah, and this is in the chat. You see, run-diffusion is responding. That's not me, by the way. It's the one of the founders. So he said there's a ton of people. Yeah, spinning it up right now. I should have maybe prepped a few of them and kept them running in the background on the warming up. But when I was doing Deforum, I was doing it on the medium setting. That's before I actually joined run-diffusion, because I felt that hit the best balance of speed, which I need for Deforum. You can't use the slowest one. Um, and we'll show you, I'll show some of those as well. I'll spin up another instance, so you can see that there is the ability to spin up multiple instances at once. But I felt that had the best balance. I think what I use large for is like, I've got a set idea in mind. I've kind of played around with it. I understand what prompts I want to use. I've like fully dived into the settings that I want to use. And then when I hit large, I can just run and just like hit it to render, 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 render. So I'm not like having a large up, spending the larger amount of money and, you know, wasting time diddling around with settings.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
just in terms of like the speed difference, you know, do you have an idea of like, so you've kind of got a small, medium, and large like server that you can use. What is do you have any sort of like benchmarks or sort of speed differences of like what the expectation when running like a Deforum would be between the three? Like how long it takes, to run like to generate a video? I guess there's too many factors to really answer that,
There's a
isn't there?
lot of factors. I got asked this today too. So there's a bunch of settings that will affect it. I would say that the main one is resolution. So if you're trying to make a higher resolution video, you're going to want a bigger box. And that's again where you figure it out on a smaller resolution. You kind of understand what you want. You scale it up, you get something a little bit larger. And then of course you can do the upscaling and so on after as well. You don't need to like do the biggest one from the get-go, just like normal.
Gotcha.
So that is one of the things. The other thing is like, just like when you're generating an image, there's how many steps you're using.
Hmm.
And in Deforum, there's some other settings as well that will affect that. But then also how much stuff are you piling into it? There's like hybrid video, there's 3D camera controls, there's all kinds of stuff. And so that
Yeah, and
complexity can really drive the usage that you need.
yeah, when I was demoing it on a YouTube video, I was showing, if you want to figure out, if you want to learn the various like rotations, like the clockwise rotation or the zoom in and the zoom out, that kind of stuff, just generate like a, 12, 15 frame video, because then you can generate real quick just to kind of get the example of what it's going to look like. But then if you're trying to generate something that's 500 frames, that's going to take a hell of a lot longer than something that you're just generating, 12 or 15 frames on. So yeah, makes a lot of sense. It was as I was asking the question about comparing the three, I realized the the answer wasn't going to be so straightforward. So
Mhm. Yeah, there's a ton that goes into like determining kind of the speed of things, but there's also so many awesome tools available. So yeah, just like recently we've been or the Deforum has been testing like ControlNet getting involved. There's hybrid video, which is awesome, using like you can load your own videos into things. So there's a lot of interesting stuff. Um, yeah, I see a lot of good questions. Oh man, people stole all the large servers. That's what's going on apparently. Apparently I need to use a medium. Okay, okay. That's funny. Well, we're gonna have to reserve a few more of those bad boys. Let's see what we got here. We'll go for medium, and that'll make it easier to see what a medium's really like here as well.
cool.
So when you first jump in, I see people are already jumping in and making deform videos. When you first jump in, it's very intimidating. There are a ton of settings, and this is like if you stepped into automatic and you were like, "Holy crap, there's a lot going on." Um, you know, be warned that in Deforum there's a lot going on as well, and it's not as immediate to get kind of the instant result you may want. And that's what I'm talking about, that experimentation, the curiosity. Um, I think we're getting scaled up in the background on servers, so we'll get that rolling. But yeah, I just know that when I first stepped in, like the first few videos I got were just like garbage. And sometimes like a blank, you'd get blank frames, you'd get like crushed, deep fried images, you'd get like blurry images. Um, yeah, there's a lot going on. But yeah, like there's a comment in here. We are light years ahead of where we were 6 months ago. And just in the industry in general, we're light years ahead in the industry. Um, what people are doing now is incredible. Yeah, you mentioned disco diffusion, like that
Mhm.
was a precursor to Deforum, right? People are doing video in that. So it's just amazing to see how far things have come. And now that like hybrid video, ControlNet, um, even the tools Runway has brought out, there's a lot more viability to using this in like even a professional sense.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, I'm up now, Matt. Let's.
Oh, there we go.
All right, medium works. This is a medium server.
Awesome. One thing, while you're kind of getting set there, is you guys are giving away some credits to run-diffusion, so might as well give some of those credits away.
Yeah.
I do have a little contest bot. It doesn't. I can't tell if it's working yet or not. So in order to test it, why don't you put the word Deforum into the chat, and then I'll try to randomly pick somebody that types the word Deforum and see if I can get this bot working to do the competition here. All right.
There we go. Spamming.
Yeah.
Deep Love's asking if anyone used Deep Dream and GFP Gun. Yes, back in the day. Deep Dream was the one that, like, I think everyone turned things into dogs. Remember, like, that was a good one. It was like acid dogs, like psychedelic acid dogs. Yeah. All right. So many people chiming in. What one do you want to give away, Matt?
That's a good question. Let's go for one of the big ones. We're giving away two $50 ones, and let's do one of the $50 ones.
There's a question from Dave. What price is the medium? It is 99 cents an hour.
All right, my little random picker isn't working here, so that's annoying. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of throw a dart. I'm going to kind of blindfold and point at the screen and scroll up and down real quick, and then just go. All right, Dawaz Lafoon. That's the winner. All right, so you won $50.
Nice one. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of hours.
Yeah, so there you go. That's the first $50 giveaway there. I'm going to go ahead and cross it off my list to let us know that we gave it away and to make a note of who gets it. So Dawaz Lafoon. All right, let's go ahead and start exploring some Deforum here.
Yeah, so I'm just logged in. This on the side is our file browser. So you can see, all your directories in here. This is the standard automatic 1111 with this like top bar added. So what I'll actually do here is we can get a multiple session going. So let's launch another session. And we'll just do this exact same thing. Medium, 99 cents an hour, 1.5, select, and we'll get it going. So now while that one's spinning up, we can see it in the session here, and it lets you, keep an eye on the timer, make sure you're not wasting anything by accidentally closing a tab and realizing the server's still up or anything. You'll see it here on the side. Okay, so we're in the Deforum tab, and I think first thing I really wanted to do, and I'm just going to pop up my notes here, was kind of go over like an example of using 2D camera controls, just get something basic started. So, we can keep a lot of these the same. There's a lot of different samplers in here. And for Deforum, I actually particularly like Euler A just because it's a little bit of the wilder ones. I will say that, what settings work for me may not work for you. And a lot of it comes down to personal taste. And that's where that curiosity, trying things out can really help. Because you'll find what works for you, not just what works for other folks. So a lot of the settings are in this keyframes tab here, and they cleaned it up recently. They did some fantastic work on organizing the UI. There's a few different modes here. So the first ones that I want to talk about are, I think a lot of people have seen some of the more like rapidly like hyper growth, almost like flashy, flickery type of Deforum videos. And you can slow that down. So when I started, like a lot of what I was doing was around trying to slow things down and make it like a little bit like slower and more my speed, because that's my personal taste, right? I wanted something that was a little bit like smoother. So what I like to do is change this Deforum cadence. Now there's a long explanation there, but the basics of it is if you have cadence 1, it will basically do a diffusion on every frame. And if I do 2, it'll be every other frame, and so on to 5. So here we're going to get much less of that hypergrowth, and every 5 frames, it'll start to change. So we'll just rock 120 frames here. We've got our steps. Strength is, I would say, the next most important And this is because this is the cohesion between the previous frame and the next frame. And it will really help determine like how wild you get. It starts at 0.65 here, which is pretty good. I want to keep it again a little bit smoother. I'm going to put it up to 0.75. But in some cases, you might want to lower it. Depends how wild and crazy you really want to get. Going down to motion here. So there's a number of different things, and these are all very important. So this is for the 2D camera. Rotate clockwise or counterclockwise. Counterclockwise would be negative number here. We're just going to leave that as is. Now this is where you kind of look at Deforum and go, what the heck is going on? So with this zoom, what you really can look at this as the mathematical equation of a wave. Now, I am not a mathematician. My, algebra teachers would be ashamed that I might not know what this is without pulling out some fancy calculator, graphing good old TI-83. But what I'm going to do is just remove that and replace it with a 1. And we'll show you some different tools that can auto-populate that. I'm sure someone in the chat is already like, ChatGPT. I'm just going to pop that in there and it'll tell me what it does, which is probably a good bet. ChatGPT and those other AI chat tools are really good for figuring this stuff out. So the important thing to realize, you see there's this 0 here. And the important thing to realize is like that is what frame that this takes effect on. And if you leave it at 0, it just means the whole time throughout the video, we're going to be at zoom 1. Zoom is this one setting that's very important to note, that you cannot put 0 on it. That will not stop it. 0 just basically, I don't know, it goes into like nothingness, infinity. It just like messes with it. You'll get an error. So keep it at 1, which is essentially standstill. Zoom 1, not moving. Just keep that in mind and make it down to 1 for zoom if you want to keep things flat without a zoom. Now we can actually add in maybe some keyframes here. So here we've got on frame 20, we're going to zoom in a little bit. Frame 50, we're going to pull out a little bit. Frame 100, we'll just stay back and still. And what it will do is it will smoothly move over the frames and blend that, or tween. There's a technical term for it, but it will slowly move from 1 to 1.005 as the frames advance from frame 0 to frame 20. So that's just a really good idea to keep in mind, that that's how it will smoothly move through. Now X, this is the left right as it says here. So we're going to go from negative 1.1 down to 0 again. So it's going to move and then stop and then move again. And we'll do something similar with translate Y, just down, of course. All right, now going on to noise. Noise is actually incredibly important. And the reason why in Deforum it's important is if you think about it in one image, noise is not a big deal. You can kind of mess with it, but it's necessary for making a diffusion. But when you're dealing with a video and you're using the strength to have coherence from one frame to another, what that means is that noise can feed back on itself and quickly get out of control. And you see this a lot where like people are like, what happened? Like my video started tiling and getting squished and the colors got all blown out and like I lost everything. A lot of times it might be because the noise is too high and the strength is too high, and they're combining together to just crush everything into noise. So for me personally, I like to keep a lower noise, not introduce as much. But if you're doing a more chaotic, more wilder one, then you can crank the noise up a little bit. Try it out, find out what you like. Become a noise artist if you want. I'm going to try to minimize it as much as possible in this one. So for coherence, this is the color settings. We'll go over some of them as we go through like different modes. And then there's an anti-blur as well. I'm just going to leave those all blank. Config, you may already be familiar with from text to image or image to image. Lower values, more creative, higher values, closer to the prompt. So we'll leave that as is. Well, actually, maybe we'll pop it up to 9 or something like that. Okay. Now there's a bunch of other settings here which you can use to determine the different ways that it uses seeds, for example. So I'm going to keep it on iterative, which means that the seed will go up by 1 for each frame of animation. You can, if you want, go back in and change it to a fixed seed. So you could even schedule that by a keyframe, which is awesome. Like, I love that they thought of this. My seed is, random. So I'm not too worried about it. It's just going to pick a random spot and iterate from there. All right, so let's put our prompt in. Now, the key thing about this very important notes. I always read these, very, very important. So with these prompts, we're going to start at keyframe 0. And this uses JSON. So what I would recommend is if you're getting errors, double check that your JSON is validated. Go in here, pop in your prompt. Oh, I see our other one's definitely ready to go. So this prompt, we know it works. I mean, this is the default one. We're going to try putting our own prompt in here. Whoa. Like so. Okay. And now if we go to the JSON validator, we can pop it in here, hit validate. It says, bingo, looks good. The one that I see a lot in the Discord is if you do multiple, like let's say we wanted to do one for frame 100, like this, and like cat. Here, you don't put a comma. But here, you do put or the last one doesn't have a comma. That's what always throws me. The last one doesn't have a comma. But if you do another line, you need a comma. So just keep that in mind. And if you're not sure, check it in the JSON validator. Very important. You'll see we also have negatives here. So there's 2 ways that you can do this. You can either put your prompts positive here and your negative here, or you can put in your prompt here and then do the -- neg and then put in your negative thing. So you'll see here it says, do this one way or the other, but not both. How we doing over there? Any questions so far? Anything coming up?
So far, so good. Yeah, I think I'm seeing people having conversations in the chat, but saving some of the questions for later that we'll circle back around to. One thing I'm curious if you're able to do, if not, no worries. Are you able to zoom in at all? Can you control plus or something and get a little bit bigger on the screen there?
Is this a little bit better?
Yeah, I think that looks a little bit better. Cool, thanks.
Okay, cool. So this init image, we're going to use an image to start things off, which I find in my creative process is like hugely important. So we're going to go into init. You see I've got like a bunch of glitch video stuff here on the side from my synth in the background. So I'm going to click use init. Now the strength of this determines like how close to the init image it is. So I'm going to try going up a little bit, like 6.5, and we're going to use this LZX one. So for the path, you can use a website path for this. I've got the Creators Club private storage, so I'm just going to reference the storage on this cloud server that goes between instances, and then the directory. Oh, wait, wrong directory. Init image LZX1. Okay, hybrid video we're not going to talk about yet. Let's see. Whoops. Anything else I need to do here? I think that's mostly it. Okay. Yeah, we're good to go. So here you can see we've got it starting to generate. On Medium, it's going to take a little while, so we can pop over to our other session. When you start off the timer, I'll just go back to that. When you start off the timer, it looks like it's going to take a while, and then it like really comes down in speed. So you saw it started at like 12 minutes, and I was like, oh, let's switch tabs. But then I'm like, wait, this shouldn't take that long. Come back, 30 seconds. So
Yeah, You see that
let's
in
just
regular Stable Diffusion as well when you're just generating images, right? It'll say like
yeah,
5 minutes and then 18 seconds later it's done.
yeah, exactly. So let's just watch this because it's almost done. Let's see how it looks. All right. So you can see there's a very slight, smooth movement. I'm trying to reduce the amount of blur by keeping the movement slow. You could use the anti-blur as well. But here you can see, that watercolor came out gorgeous. And when it slows down, you'll see like the details kind of clarify a little bit. So let's see, let's go into here and make the frames a bit longer. And we'll use a new feature, to me anyways. But this is really important. So we've got this like video that we created from the init image, and maybe actually, because it's so quick, maybe we just like try a different one. So if we go to LZX3, hit generate. So we'll get that one going and see what the effect is by using a different one, because it's going to change the colors, it's going to change the shapes. You can see, in this image here, I'll pop it out. So it's really grabbing like these lines from the video synth and bringing them in, making it this abstract kind of thing. The strength is quite high, so it's not getting too wild. It's sort of sticking very close to that init image. But once it's off that first frame, it's all on its own. And it's just the strength that's keeping it together like glue as it goes on. So I think that other one should be done. Yep. So let's check it out. Hit update video. There it is. We got like a spaceship or something in there. A foot? Uh-oh. Feet guy's going to be in the comments. But yeah, you can see it's keeping pretty close to it. So if we wanted to make it a little bit wild, we could maybe lower this a little bit, go over to keyframes, bring this down to 6.5, and maybe put the cadence at 4. Try again. And this is where that experimentation comes in handy, because what I find is depending on where you start and kind of what you're working with, your settings will be totally different. There's no like, this is the way to do it every time to make a great result. And there isn't in some text to image, you can definitely see that when there's like a prompt that's just amazing and like people pop it in, they all get the same awesome result. With Deforum, you can get some incredible results in it by copying other settings. But what I find is it's really dependent on kind of like what you're using as your source, your init image, your prompt and everything that'll determine the settings. So here we go. Now you can see it's moving like a bit faster and it's going off of our init image faster as well. Really goes into like an abstract sort of thing. This looks like a fruit. I don't know what's going on there, right? But you can get the idea that it's like it's shifting a lot more. So let's use guided images here. Now the way I'm going to use them is a little bit abstract because I like make abstract art. But you could try to bring it really close to it and make it like force it into a certain image that you've generated to make like an animation. And that's like a very complicated thing. Like I know we saw that incredible like anime that the guys made, forgetting their name, Matt, what is it?
Oh, the Corridor Crew guys.
Corridor. Yeah.
Oh, that was phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah, that stuff's like amazing. But I try to stick to the more abstract stuff, but you can force it to go down those roads. So there's a lot of different things that you can do to like kind of have it do a specific type of thing. We'll go into hybrid video after to start showing you that because that's going to be very important. So there's a very important README here. This only works with 2D and 3D modes. Interpolation is actually something specific in Deforum. And it is not frame interpolation, which you might be familiar with. What frame interpolation like basically takes, let's say you have like a 120 frame movie, and it says like, I'm going to make this 360 frames by multiplying the number of frames and then like linking them together, sort of like how Deforum is doing this with the strength to make it match from one to another, but it's like tweening those frames and putting them together. So this is different. In Deforum, what it's doing is it's actually tweening prompts. It's going between from one prompt to another and bringing it there. So just keep in mind that that is what interpolation mode is. Video input mode, in the old one, I was actually not too happy with. And yes, you can use any image to start the animation like I'm doing here, just some random stuff I grabbed off my synth, but could grab a new one from the synth right now and pop it in here, no problem. Or something I download.
Yeah, somebody was just asking if they can use, something that they drew as the starting image. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify. Yeah, any image doesn't really matter.
Yeah, or you could like take something you drew, pop it into ControlNet, and then put it in here, right? So there's like lots of capabilities. Um, the video input mode I do not use, so I will just say that straight up. I wasn't too impressed with it. What I have used instead is hybrid video.
Hmm.
But there's a few specific use cases where you might want to use that. But anyways, see how it says set the init image tab strength higher, so recommended 0.65. And then you need to set the seed behavior to schedule. So let's get the schedule piece going. Seed behavior to schedule. And I will put in the seeds that I have here. To do one a little bit longer. And then we can grab the prompt for this.
So
So
what you just
basically,
entered in the seed schedule there, where did that come from?
that's just something I've practiced with before to make sure this
Gotcha.
was working properly. But here, I'll just walk through it. This is seed 5. It can be any number. I just chose 5 arbitrarily.
Hmm.
And then -1 would generate a random seed. At frame 200, we're going to do seed 555. And then frame 300 will be random again. And then frame 400, the end, will be seed 5.
Gotcha. And the seeds are just fairly random, right? Those are arbitrary numbers.
Yeah, I haven't
Gotcha.
like, gone in and investigated hundreds of seeds before this video or anything like that.
Gotcha.
We can put any number in there if we wanted. Here on the images, so what I've done is I've gone frame 0 is image 1, 2, 3, and then back to 2 and 1. You see that it does say you can make a loop. Now, what I will tell you is that it takes a lot of work to make a loop in this. And you'll really have to jog your settings, because if you think about it, we're starting with an init image. It's getting like the strength is like generating these frames off of it with the cohesion and the noise. And then we're injecting another image into it at frame 100. And so it's going to try to blend there. So because this is very short, like 400 frames is not long, even if it's 15 frames per second, it's not long. So to make a loop will take a lot of work there. Like it will really have to go through a lot of stuff and a lot of frames. You can do it. Just know that this is probably not going to look like a loop, even though we're going back to the original image.
Hmm.
But with some like init image stuff, we could definitely do that. So it's not impossible. So since we've changed this to 400 frames, right? Let's make sure we've got that. 400. And enable guided images mode. Okay. All good there. We will need to change the seed schedule, or sorry, that's not the seed schedule, the motion. So the frames match up. So this zoom actually, need to change that. Translation X, we're going to do this. So now it's going to frames 100 and 300. And Y as well. Maybe we'll add a 400 here, 400.
So just to clarify here, so when on the zoom and on the translation X and on the translation Y, these series of numbers, so starting on frame 0, the one is basically no zoom, is that correct?
Yes, but on translation X and Y, it means something else. It means 0 means no movement.
Gotcha. And so what we're doing here is from frame 0 to frame 99 essentially, it's not going to zoom, and then starting on frame 100, it's going to start zooming in slightly. And then
No,
okay.
it's frame 0. It's going to start slowly increasing the zoom till it hits the value of
Okay. Okay.
1.005 on frame 100. Yeah, that's
Cool.
it.
Thanks
That's a
for
really good
clarifying that. Yeah.
distinction. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because it's not quite obvious. But yeah.
Okay. So from frame 0 to 100, it's going to slowly zoom in until it hits that 1.005. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So let's get that one baking in the oven there. 3 minutes on a medium. Again, these are very fast. It's not our best card in here, but it's still able to generate all these pictures at a fast rate. All right. Do we have any questions? Maybe do another giveaway. What do you think? Well, we're waiting for this bad boy to cook.
Yeah, let's do a giveaway. I did get my bot working, so now I can just pick from anybody who's been active in the last 15 minutes. So if you've been chatting in the chat for the last 15 minutes, then you're eligible. So I'm going to go ahead and roll it real quick. And well, it picked run-diffusion as the winner. So let me roll it one more time here.
Well, no, we need people to say a word.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can do it that way. Right now, it's just said as anybody who's been active.
Do a tween. I want to hear people say tween.
Tween, like TWEEN.
Yeah.
All right.
Such a weird word.
TWEEN. Type tween.
Yeah, run-diffusion's pretty happy that they won there.
And we're giving away a $30 in credits on this one. $30 in credits.
All right, Tween and Weezer, the good old bands.
All right, I'm debating when to press the button because it's still rolling in.
Yeah, let people. There's a bunch of people on. Let's make sure we get everyone in there. Oh, we got some double dippers there.
Yeah, it'll only see them once.
Okay. Good.
All right, I'm gonna press the button. So this is for $30 in credit here. So we got Tim Buck 2. That's Tim Buck and the number 2. You just won $30 in credits.
Nice. Hey, there's Nightbot. All right, awesome. Why don't we do another one? Do a 20 or something like that.
All right. So all right. So this is also going to pick from tween since everybody's on the tween train right now.
Yeah.
All right. So we got Sergio F. Mohar, Masters Nation. That was for a 20.
Nice. All right. Let's do a 10.
All right. And then let's see. For the 10, we got Deep Love AI.
Hey. All right. Awesome. The tech priests will be pleased.
Just making some notes here so I don't forget who got what.
All right. Awesome.
I'm also, what I did was you can't see what I'm doing right now, but I took, I've got my little notepad here and I wrote down all the prizes. I'm just crossing them off as we give them away so that I don't lose track here.
Great. Yeah, we will make sure all those credits get handed out to you. If you're not signed up already, you will have to sign up, go into our Discord, send us a message and just say, hey, I won the prize. We'll verify it. And then, you can get the credits added to your account.
Yeah. So somebody's asking how to get them. Yeah. So jump into the run-diffusion Discord and they'll make sure to take care of you there.
Sweet. All right. We are good on this. Let's update the video, see what we got. Okay. So it's starting in the same place with the image, but let's see how it develops. Okay. You can see here, it's very rapidly changing as it gets to those different images. But the strength and color, oh, we got a little car in there. That's cool. The strength and color is staying pretty coherent between these images, even though they're very different. So there's a few different settings that we can look at in there. Well, we're almost done. And then it's like stopping, so it kind of blooms a little bit in the quality. You can see there's like a little bit of blur as it's tweening between the, the different things there. So if we go to guided images, there's a few different settings here. And so it's important, like if you really want to nail kind of an exact image, this is where you would do that. We've got the tweening frames schedule, that word, man. Image strength, right? So, you know, how high do we really want this? Do we want it to affect our image a lot or not very much? How do we want it blended in? Now, the blend is an equation, and you see the equation listed there, but it's a mixture of the blend factor scope and the tweening frame schedule here. So again, math, not that great. ChatGPT probably has the answer. Maybe human can answer in a bit here when we go on, but just know that these are fun sliders to play with. And we can just try some stuff out, you know, might as well while we're doing this. Again, you want to make sure that you know, you've got some pretty consistent images, I would say, in here. But hey, experiment, get wild, put some weird stuff in there, do a longer video, try it out. Or maybe do tons of images, like every frame, like a different image, or every 10 frames, a different image. You know, there's lots of different ways that you can play with this and try it out. Color correction. I kind of want to lower that, how close to get the colors of the input frame, right? So let's actually bring that down and see if we can get some of these other colors, that because we've got like some really wild colors in here, right? Let's see if we can, well, these are actually pretty consistent. So maybe instead we'll go 4 and 5. Try that out. But we will have to move on to some other stuff here, because I know I'll just like nerd out about this stuff and just be like, oh, this art's so fun. Oh, I'm going to keep doing this. Now, I do want to show the other 2 modes, which will take a little bit. So we should probably.
Yeah, and 3D is one that when I was messing with it, I stuck to 2D. I didn't even move into 3D because I wasn't ready to make a video with all of the various options that are available inside of 3D.
Yeah, I'm going to try to see if we can get a large. Let's see. Run-diffusion, can you kick someone off for me? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. All right, let's see what we can get here. Let's try a 2.1, select, and launch. So we'll see if we get something there. But we can go here and kind of talk about a 3D version, because the 3D camera is incredible. Like I am really blown away. And I will say, I do want to give some shout outs here. Because the Deforum Discord is incredible. Like everyone there is super helpful. They're all so nice, and they get bombarded with questions nonstop. But the community's really come together and helped out there in a big way. So the shout outs I want to give are, 1, Snack Pack. I saw you there in the channel. That's how I learned, was like by looking at what Snack Pack does. They post their videos, they include the prompts. You can go through, figure out how things do what they do. And it's incredible. Like, big fan of Snack Pack. All right, and we got a bunch of fresh LG cards loaded up. We do have this like scaling backend, so you know we can technically go to 10,000. It just you know, I guess our provider was a little caught off guard there. Interest. But so Snack Pack's one of the shout outs. The other one I want to give a shout out to, and we'll talk more about it later, is really big name, because they not only develop and add to the Deforum extension some incredible stuff, but they also post all their videos with like details of how they did it. So both of those creators are just incredible and definitely worth looking up in the Discord. Just go through their past messages and just see all the like crazy stuff that they've made, because it's incredible. All right, so we are in this medium one, still spinning up the big box, but let's jump in here. So we're gonna do, maybe we'll make it a little wider. I don't know. Let's try it out. And 20 steps. Go to keyframes. So we're going to go 3D mode. We are going to do wrap. So this is really important. And especially when you're doing 3D camera work, you have to visualize that the way the 3D works is it is going through and making a depth map of what is active and then using that in a 3D space. So there's almost like, consider that there's a virtual camera and you're training the camera on where to move in this 3D space. It's wild stuff. We did get our large box, thank goodness. Let's do that in a large box instead, and just, you know, we showed how it works on a you know, on a smaller box, a medium box, but maybe make it widescreen. Oh, got to be in the right one here. 1024 6 3D mode. Cadence. I guess we can put that back at 5 again. And maybe we'll do 1,000 frames. Now, I will say, just as a note, before I jump into the big box and start like showing you all the speed and what it can do, if you go into the Deforum thing here, you can actually see all the individual frames of the image that you're making or the video that you're making.
Mm-hmm.
And that can really help you. If we pop this open, that can really help you when you're making a new video. So this is also a folder that I delete quite often. Like I will go in here, I will just go search video, hit enter. Now I can see all the videos that I did, right? Like, you know, looking at this one, we can go in and see there's our video that we had before. So I will get all the videos that I want, but here you can see all the frames for everything that we've done so far. So it takes a bit. It's best if you like delete it when you're done using it and start up with a fresh one. But I will say that you can scroll down here and see in advance, like, oh, this video is looking like it's not going to be so hot. Maybe it's more like a hot mess. And then you can stop your video. But the other way you can do this to, you know, reduce the amount of time that you're experimenting and testing things out is you can do a much smaller amount of frames and then take a look at how it's looking in the first like 30 seconds or so, and then try it again with a longer amount and again with a longer amount. And then that will help you cut down on, you know, server costs or time if you're doing it locally. But it will really help you just at the beginning, you know, make sure that what's coming out looks great, and then do it. It's nice because in Deforum, you kind of know if it's bad like pretty fast, whereas when you're training, you generally don't know until much later. And by that time, you've already trained most of it. So,
Yeah.
So let's go into this, and just go into some more settings here. If you want to do another giveaway or something, I'll.
Yeah, I actually want to pull huemin onto the stream if he's available now. So I want to pull him on to maybe help with some of the concepts and explain some of the stuff. So now we got huemin on here, who huemin is one of the original creators of Deforum. He actually gave Deforum its name. He's in he runs the Deforum Twitter. He's inside the Deforum Discord. So he is the man over at Deforum. So thought it'd be cool to bring him on, and he can help answer some questions as we're going through this, and maybe help clarify some of the concepts that you're walking through as well. So thanks for joining us today, huemin.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And yeah, like lots of questions in the live stream chat. I've been trying to answer them.
I appreciate
there's a lot going on under the hood. You know, at Deforum, you know, we're a community and we want to give people access to as many tools as we possibly can. Unfortunately, that means that there's a ton of settings. But we just try to make everything available so you have complete control.
Now, is there anything that's sort of come up so far that maybe you feel you want to clarify a little bit more, or bring maybe some more attention to? Because I noticed we were kind of in the background chat here. I've got my head on a swivel here. I've got chat over here, and I'm trying to look at the cameras and pay attention to Revolved, what he's talking about. So I'm kind of looking all over the place. But is there anything that sort of came up so far that you want to dig a little deeper on, or clarify at all?
Yeah. So one thing that I think is really important to understand is sort of like how these diffusion models are working,
Hmm.
especially like in the context of these stable diffusion animations. So I guess like the key thing to understand is that this is essentially an initial image animation, right? So the diffusion model will take noise and with a text conditioning, like produce some image.
Hmm.
And instead of starting from noise, we can start from an initial image, and we can still use that same conditioning to sort of like modify and augment the starting image. And essentially, like all these animations is we're taking the output of a generation and we're putting it into another generation, and we sort of like have this feedback loop, and we have clever ways to sort of augment and like translate, rotate, zoom the output of one generation, put it into the next, and we sort of like create this illusion of like a camera moving through 3D space or 2D space. And then, honestly, like you could just keep going, right? There's so many things you can do.
So it's kind of like it's kind of like the sort of stable diffusion image to image, but it's just kind of, it makes one image and then sort of takes that image and then makes another one that's based off of that, and that's why each sort of thing blends so nicely, because the next image is sort of based off the one that was previously made.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's exactly image to image. So it's image to image, but you're just taking one output and putting into another image to image. And then, doing those little changes, right? Like move the output or zoom in to the output just like a teeny bit. And then you do this enough times, you create enough frames, you stitch them all together into a video. And now all of a sudden you have a zooming video.
Very cool. So this is actually a question that I had for you. Nathaniel's asking it here as well. But where did the name Deforum come from? I know that was, you know, you were the one who came up with the name, so I'm curious where the name's from.
Yeah, so I actually started sort of messing around in the AI space in, I guess, like late 2021.
Hmm.
And, before I found all these amazing communities on Discord, I sort of like had this idea in my head that I wanted to figure out a way to like program creativity. And that was like a really stupid idea. But like I started exploring and experimenting with code, and the first two folders I made when starting my AI journey was huemin and Deforum, not spelled the way that they are spelled now, but I've sort of had these names sort of from the beginning, and Deforum sort of just worked and it fit, and it's a combination of design and forum, but also it's like a play on words. Like, with this AI stuff, we're like deforming these images and augmenting them with AI. So that's really like how the name came together.
Gotcha. Very cool. Very cool. Well, so Revolved was mentioning another giveaway. I do want to say something real quick. I know it was Judge Works. I guess when I was messing with Nightbot the first time around and it didn't work, he won one of the things. So I'll make sure that he gets one of the prizes as well. So I just want to say that real quick before I go any further, and somebody gets upset with me on that. So you won one too. So very cool. So with the forum, let's if we go back over to some of the settings and maybe start messing with the 3D. I kind of want to dig into the 3D, and it would be cool to have both Revolved and huemin on on voice chat here as we're going through it, to talk through some of the what's going on as we're messing with some of the 3D stuff, because 2D to me was fairly straightforward when I was messing with it. There's only, so many motions you can do with it. When you start getting into 3D, there's quite a bit more knobs and buttons you can press. And that's where it was starting to get a little bit over my head. So what we're seeing on the screen right now, this is a 3D generation.
Yeah, so it's some of my earlier work in the 3D. You can really see the depth and like how the camera is moving around. I actually wanted to bring this one up because there's some interesting stuff with it. So I used an init image here, right? So this is some of my video art, and then it like kind of goes up, and you see these like lines. Actually, human, I was kind of curious. I know this one comes up in the Discord,
Hmm.
but those lines are kind of when the camera goes out of bounds. And there's a few different ways. I think it's like you adjust the strength setting. You can kind of tone those down. I mean, I kind of like the effect, but do you know why that's sort of happening?
Well, so I think these are just like artifacts of the diffusion model. And I personally love them. I kind of try to accentuate them as much as I can, just because they're sort of like this emergent behavior of these models, and they're not desired necessarily, but they're certainly cool.
Yeah, I agree. You can get some really awesome textures with it. It's a ton of fun. This one's more of like a sideways sort of one, but still using the depth map here a little bit. You can see there's the camera like turning, and it kind of twists everything around. I really love it because it kind of gives this like zero gravity feeling. You're like floating through space, and there's some of the artifacts, and you see here they got interpreted as desert dunes. There's these little flashes that come from, this is actually from the frame interpolation that I did afterwards to make it go smooth. So I use this is prior to frame interpolation being added into Deforum. I used a free application called Flow Frames, or I think they might have like a donation or something like that. But Flow Frames was what I used, and it does kind of make things a little bit flickery in that area. But otherwise, I mean, you get this like nice smooth animation, which is really cool. So yeah, we can dive into the settings. I just kind of wanted to show off some of this other work while we were chatting.
This is awesome. And so the initial art that you were doing, that's all the stuff that's in your background there. You make it with all of your, I'm not quite sure what you call all the crazy wires and cables and stuff going all over the place in the background, but that's built with that stuff.
Yeah. The initial image. Yeah, actually, if you change to my camera here, this is the video synth that I have running right now. So then over here, I can like tweak these settings to get, like, this is a synth oscillator. And then if I want, I can change like the blending between layers.
Wow.
Or this one uses like shaders, which shaders are amazing. You can get look at like programs like VDMX, and there's like Shader Toy. Actually, if you're looking for like cool stuff to run through Deforum, check out Shader Toy. Because there's a ton of cool like applications that you can do to make like awesome little weird animations and stuff like this. And there's a whole community around making these things. You can also run videos through Shader Toy to give extra effects. So
wow, that's crazy. That's so cool.
Yeah,
that's like a whole world I've never even dived into before.
right? Yeah, there's a ton of stuff out there in the video world, and it's neat to see like areas where it sort of impacts with AI stuff. So maybe we switch back, and I've got Shader Toy on the thing here. You can see that there's like different fun things, and then the codes here, so you can actually like go in and be like, oh, I'm gonna change some of these vectors and make this do other things,
Oh wow.
And then you could load that video into it. You can use a camera input. There's all kinds of crazy stuff in here, so lots of fun to experiment with.
Wow, that's really cool. Real quick question for Human. Deep Love AI is asking if you see like any sort of Adobe AfterEffects extensions for Deforum or anything like that in the future.
So I was actually thinking about this earlier. I think the next sort of evolution to these animations is actually going to be the Dream Studio Pro. I'm not sure if either of you are familiar, but So from the Disco Diffusion days, which is like the precursor to Deforum, they were using like sort of different diffusion models, but like similar ideas where you're using inits to create these animations. A lot of the developers of Disco Diffusion are now working for Stability and actually working on Dream Studio Pro. But I know there's like a lot of like development going into sort of trying to make as smooth animations as possible. But who knows when they're actually going to end up releasing that? I mean, they've been talking about it for months.
I've seen on Twitter some little leaks, some little like people testing out the new goods. So we've got SDXL. I've seen people testing that. I saw one guy say like, this means no one will use 1.5 ever again, which is a big claim. We'll see if you know, the anime waifu stuff goes over into SDXL, maybe not. But I've also seen that there's another thing beyond that, which is SD 3.0, which will be the consumer version of it, which sounds fascinating. So lots of exciting stuff going on. Emad's still taking a ton of flack, though. Actually, it's funny. You know, he's taking so much flack for 1.5 because it uses the artists. And he was posting on Twitter. He's like, I didn't even make that. Like Runway made 1.5 and released it, but they get no flack. I'm just like a person, so everyone attacks me instead of the company, you know? So yeah, I'm glad he's still out there building, you know, despite the haters, he's out there making stuff. So yeah, I know Dream Studio is going to be coming out with some fresh hotness. And then I'm assuming Emad's got that lovely, thankfully, attitude about open source. So the tools will be coming to the general population as well, which means automatic 1111 will be able to use it too. So that's exciting stuff. I don't know if you've got any inside scoops there, Human, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts on the next generation of AI tools with Stable Diffusion.
So I actually have access to Stable Diffusion XL, and it's amazing. It's like it's amazing. It's so good. It's like you get all of the benefits of version 2, plus all of the benefits from version 1. It's really amazing.
Awesome.
Wow. That's big. That's big hype.
Is there any word around? I know we're sort of getting off topic here, but is there any word around like when the expected release is for the general public?
So I heard rumors, and of course, you know, things are super dynamic. So you know, I have no idea if this is going to happen, but I would feel like in the next month. But again, I don't know. I really don't.
Cool. Yeah, I saw he, the nice thing is because he took all this flack for like, you know, Runway's 1.5 release, but he's made an opt-out model and then opt-in. So if you're an artist and you wanted your art in the model, you can reach out. There's like a website, which is a third-party website that artists put together, and he's started working with them. So you can opt out or opt in of having your art in the next 3.0 release, which I think is really great. You know, it's not like he's just like, you know, just saying, screw the haters, we're going to do whatever we want. Instead, he's like actually working with people and trying to build bridges and not like, you know, move fast and break things like some other.
And I think that's a good way to go. I feel like just in the last, you know, 4 weeks or so, I've seen a lot of the AI hate sort of die down. It feels like everything moves so fast, right? But even just on my YouTube channel, I used to get comments all the time from people going, oh, AI is stealing from artists, and this is, you know, what you're doing is evil. And I used to get all those comments, and a lot of that has sort of phased out a little bit just in the last several weeks, which I find very interesting.
Yeah, I know that there's, this one, I'm gonna extend this one too. I know that there's still a ton of hate out there. Emad, I mean, deactivating his Twitter was pretty rough. He made like a faux pas. I think he was talking about like firewalls, and everyone thought he was like admitting to stealing. But what he was talking about was like working with companies like Getty or other companies to like have their own like models. And so they are working to like work with companies as well that have their own like copyright concerns, obviously. If you've done any amount of work in 1.5, you've probably seen the Getty Images watermark on there. So I just wanted to point out one thing really quick on this. So this is the guided images thing that we did. And now you see the color comes out a lot more, and from the individual images that we injected. And there you can see that it's closer to the images that I put in. So just by adjusting some of these blend image strength, lowering the image strength, we were able to kind of get it a little bit closer to the images. And I think we've got a few minutes on our 3D one. Huemin, was there anything you wanted to chat about, or should I just jump into like some hybrid stuff and start spinning that up? What do you think?
Yeah, I think hybrid sounds neat.
Yeah, it's all great. And this is, so hybrid is something that like, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think a really big name contributed to the project and like made this on his own, and then it was brought in via GitHub. Is that right?
Yeah, so I was actually just scrolling through the user Discord, and I saw a really big name sort of just doing this incredible like ransack hybrid video stuff, and I was like, hey, like we got to add this. This would be amazing. And he worked really hard, and he put together like a pull request to update the repo, and boom, now we have hybrid video. And actually, like his work is cited by Runway ML, I think, in their like Gen 1 paper.
Oh,
but it's incredible that, you know, just you can be in the community, you can have a cool idea, you can, you know, get help from people, and all of a sudden, you know, you just made some groundbreaking AI tech.
Yeah, I saw the craziest story on Reddit too, where like a guy who had some like he's not a programmer, but he knew like something about like video, I guess, and he just used Bing and ChatGPT and coded his own anti-flicker. Like he's got posts of the current build on Reddit right now. So this is just like such a quickly moving space. But what I love is it's so different from some of these other big movements we've had in the past, where there's that like early internet feel of collaboration, which is a really incredible thing. So, you know, fingers crossed we don't end up with corporate overlords ruling everything. But at this stage anyways, we've got this like fun creative space where anyone can jump in, anyone can contribute to a project. People like talking on GitHub about problems they're having and fixing things, like those are the real heroes that are keeping the like, kind of like open source movement alive. So yeah, if you think you can help, jump in by all means, because the space definitely needs as many, you know, people working on it as possible.
Absolutely.
We've got our 3D video, so let's take a look at it. Took about 12 minutes there, 2,000 frames. It'll take a second to load it into the RAM here, I believe, to play the video. There we go. And if I wanted full screen, I could just like navigate to the folder and pull it up. But we've got a full minute of video, and you can see the 3D happening here.
I love the color palette of this one.
Yeah, it's fun. I tried to like throw in some sci-fi elements, have some windows with planets behind them.
It's very contrasty too. It's got some nice contrast to it.
Yeah, like the Michael Bay lens flare action going on there. I think a lot of that's coming because I put in the prompt like astronomical phenomenon or something like that. So it's got like, you know, galaxies and clouds and strange things. But yeah, this is based off of a really big name prompt where he did this incredible one of like Huemin. You probably saw this one, the like never ending Egyptian obelisk exploration video. Oh, it's incredible. If you go into there and check it out, and you'll see the prompt for this. Like amazingly good work on the prompt there. All right, so that's the 3D video. Might as well do this, generate another one, And we'll go over to our large instance I spun up here.
Now, can you clarify for me what? So we know what the difference between 2D and 3D is. What was the difference with a hybrid?
Yeah, so hybrid, so really big name, wasn't quite satisfied with video input. He had been talking about it, and like to him, it didn't really do much. And I agreed. It was kind of rough around the edges, the video input mode, and it didn't really there was no control net, there was no nothing, right? So he wanted to bring in the video and then use like I showed you on the mixer, where on the video mixer that I have there, to use those elements to like blend the input video with the generated prompt and make it so that you can control that parameter, and you can sort of effectively really add the generated piece over top of the video input piece. And then he took some work that was pioneered by this fellow, I forget his name. It's like SXELA.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know. Yeah, Alex. Alex is his name.
Alex, that's right. And he's got a Patreon where he does Warp Fusion, which is on a collab that you have to be on the Patreon to do. But he's got some brilliant stuff. He's just solo dev, crushing it. Like I'd see like daily builds all the time. The guy's like nuts. Like,
so is the hybrid similar to what like Runway's trying to do with their Gen 1? Is it kind of that similar idea?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the Gen 1 really took it to the next level, where they're bringing in things almost like instruct pix to pix. So now we're seeing this sort of like interesting space come out where like hybrid is like an early version of this stuff that's, I think, still really great to use. Gen 1's got this like very like crisp, professional, like full replacement mode. Instruct pix to pix and control net are sort of like different ways that you can break it down per frame and reimagine it. So a lot of people before, you know, the Deforum tools came around, they're making videos by like just grabbing large amounts of frames and then piecing them together, like stitching them together with a video program to like take all the raw images in a row and then stitch them together. They're still doing that with like control net stuff right now. Human, we should definitely have you talk about control net, maybe after the hybrid piece, because I'm so curious about what's going on there. But there is here where you can take, and I'm in the output tab on Deforum, and you can take frames and turn them into video right from a batch here. So I would just like, you know, put in my path, etc. Here, and then it would stitch them together. So you could do that for like control net. Or using the instruct pix to pix. Yeah, so let's jump into hybrid here. This generate input frames, you have to do it once, but that's basically like doing what we were just talking about. Like it's generating, it's taking all the frames from the video you put in and breaking them all down, splitting them all up, and putting them in a folder. So you do it once. And yes, I'm seeing a comment. Hybrid mode has been really confusing. It is a tough one, I have to say. There's a lot of complexity in even a small amount of settings. It's still very complex. So we're going to try it out. I'll show you some examples that I've done. Here, actually, I have a good example here that I can kind of pop up. Whoops. But I wanted to take my glitch art that I do and put it in here. So this is the glitch.
Oh, I think I might have just lost audio on you.
Yeah, I can't hear anything.
Oh, sorry.
We're back.
That one had audio on it, so maybe like it switched focus to the.
Oh, that might have been it.
Had like music, but that was the raw input video, and then here I've like reimagined it. So this is an example of the first example that I got of it working with hybrid. So you can see how it like took that glitch stuff, turned it into kind of an Art Nouveau painting, Like you can see the colors, like the different glitch aspects turned into like faces and clouds. Really awesome stuff. Here's another example using that same one, but I like toned it down a bit. You can see there's like a figure coming out of the clouds. This one I used a custom model that I made. So it can make some really incredible stuff. Love
Yeah, I
the
want
quote.
to explain something real quick. So in the original like video input, right? All you're doing is you're taking your video and you're separating it into frames, and then you're doing individual generations on each frame.
Mhm.
And so what this hybrid mode is essentially doing is it's splitting the video into frames, but it's also like getting more information from the video. It's getting information on like how things are moving frame to frame. And it's like using that information in addition to the frames in order to like make these sort of warpy videos.
Yeah. Yeah. Like sort of like how strength works by going from like one image to another. There's like, it's picking up some of that information as well. Would you agree with that, Human?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool. One of the problems I had with my video was just like, it's really glitchy. Like it's coming from like a TV, low res, like lots of noise, lots of like random stuff in there. So when I was trying a lot of other modes, it wasn't really working very well. But this one was able to, with the hybrid mode, like really come up with some creative ways of using it, which were pretty awesome. This one was like a more like a weird subterranean cave, ancient ruins sort of thing I had going on, which was really fun. And these ones were more similar inputs, but like looking at doing more of like faces and portraits in 1.5. One of the things I found in my work is like if I do a lot of interpolation or I'm working with hybrid mode, sometimes I'll get this sort of like I wouldn't describe it any other way than jello. I get this like sort of jello going on where it wiggles. So that's the interpolation going overdrive, because it's not like using the information from the video, it's using the frames. So then the pixels are moving in a way that's not consistent with the way that the video is moving. And that's really important for hybrid video. So if we go back here, we're going to do this hybrid composite, which means it's going to be that original video and generated video on the same thing. We're going to use the first frame as the init image, right? We want it to start with like what the image looks like. Now this is where it gets interesting. This is where it's able to take in the hybrid motion and flow, it's able to take that information from the video on the movement in the video and transform it into the generated video. So that's where sometimes I'd get the jello, sometimes I get movement that was like beautiful, like this optical flow model. If you really nail the settings, is incredible. Like you can get some brilliant stuff. And a lot of what I showed you uses this optical flow model with DIS, medium, or Farnback. I don't do much masking at the moment, but it's definitely possible. But I will say, like, unless you're putting a mask thing in, it's hard to get it working properly for me. So we're going to start with hybrid motion none for this input video, but just keep in mind that these other methods are really great for capturing motion. And so test them out, try them out for sure. So let's make sure we have all of our other settings in place. So the frames thing, keep in mind that it ignores the max frames when you do a hybrid video, and it will only use the input video as the number of frames. So when you're testing this out, you don't want to sit around forever waiting for a generation. Make sure that you use a short video, like 10 seconds. Take a clip from the start of the video that you want to use, pop it in, and then you won't be wasting a lot of time and or money doing this. So we are going to just go through this quickly. Max frames is fine. Cadence you want at 1. And the reason why is because hybrid video is trying to generate and diffuse off of every single thing. So if you do less, it's going to have more jello in my experience. It's going to be guessing and tweening and causing that like goop that's caused by not moving in motion. But if you're having every frame generate, this is, again, I don't know if my logic is correct, a little bit banging rocks sometimes with hybrid video to make fire, but cadence 1 I find is best. So we're going to use the 2D animation mode. Now with strength, you want it really high, like really high. If you consider like strength 1, like nothing will show up except for, you know, what you put in. Or sorry, how would you classify strength 1, huemin? If it's like,
yeah, so I'm gonna potentially like flip the directions, but
derail. Yes, please.
essentially you have two ends, right? You have only random noise as an input to the generation, or you have just the image as input to the generation. And then there's this entire spectrum in between. But essentially, like at 0.5, you have half random noise and you have half input image. And so what I think you're saying, right, is that for these hybrid videos, you want to be closer to the image that you're putting in than you want to be to the noise.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Worded much more gracefully than I could have. So definitely, it's awesome to have you here for sure. I'm going to turn up the config because I want it to be pretty close to my prompt, which I'll enter in. So we're going to make this, extra brackets here. We're going to make this input video, which I'll play in a second. We're going to make it comic book style, which should be pretty cool. I'm going to take a weird 80s movie trailer. I will say, I showed you Shader Toy. I will say as well, check out archive.org, go into video. There's a ton of stuff here. Like, I love archive.org. It's amazing. And you can really find like a lot of Creative Commons video here that you can use. So I grabbed a Creative Commons video, and you can use it for hybrid video or art. No problem. Licensing is all good there.
Very cool. Actually, that brings up a question that popped up in the comments. This might be a question for huemin, but any videos that we generate in Deforum, you do have the rights to use them however you want, commercially or otherwise, correct?
Yeah, so like Deforum is distributed under MIT license, which means that you can do anything you want with it. And, you know, the people who make Deforum aren't liable. But essentially the rights to generate or use any of the outputs from Deforum for like commercial purposes, I guess, falls under sort of like the licensing of the model itself. So that's completely okay with Stable Diffusion models.
Gotcha.
Like the stability released checkpoints of the Stable Diffusion models.
Gotcha. Now, I guess would there be some like gray area though? I guess if, let's say, you were to take a commercial video that somebody else created that you don't have the rights to, and then sort of remix it with Deforum, then I feel like you might start getting into some gray areas there, right?
Definitely. And I think it's really important to like try to understand this stuff as best as you can, because you know you'll be saving yourself from like accidentally doing something you're not supposed to.
Yeah. And you know, the nice thing is there is like some protection in the form of fair use laws. So just make sure you understand those rules if you are going to be using this stuff. When it comes to art though, I mean, I make music, make hip hop sample things. So, you know, my understanding of things is a little bit different, but I make it for personal use. I'm not releasing it for tons of money or anything. It's just for fun. So, yeah, I have no qualms using this. This movie is amazing, by the way. Absolutely twisted, strange sci-fi from the 80s, Liquid Sky. It's like half fashion 80s nightclub aliens come that have to like have sex with you to live or something like that. I forget what the premise of the prompt. It's like very, very strange. But I liked this because it's just like face, center, thought it'd be a good example, person, You know, I think a lot of people in the beginning are maybe not doing weird abstract video stuff like I am. So they want to get like maybe a person or a style. So let's take a look at that and pop it in here. I popped it in the video init path. A few other settings that are really important. You'll see I noticed the noise, anti-blur. So this is something that Really Big Name is not a fan of when I saw his tutorials. So reduce it to 0 to get a better image because you're not doing some of the things that in normal Deforum you'd be doing, like with tweening or so maybe, but the anti-blur is going to just get in the way. For seed, we're going to do iterative, and strength's already really high. So I think we're pretty much ready to go. We've got our prompt. Now, one thing you do, since we're using this, we're not going to click use init. We are going to increase this because it's going to use that initial image from the video as the init image. So we're going to increase the strength so it shows up. Yes, fan art. Definitely what we're doing. And again, this input frames, you only need to do it in the first step. Now, this is where there's a lot of important settings under hybrid schedules. So comp alpha. So alpha means transparency. There's no tooltips for these. We're going into the unknown here. We're going to step out into this area where it's a little bit shakier ground, but we're going to have some fun with it. If you do have a mask blend, then this will be used. Contrast. You don't want to use this unless there's certain cases like it's the light in the frame. So you could use it to make like a transition. You could like brighten it up. It's going to use that same like when you're going from one frame to another, it'll like slowly increase. So you could do like a flash. You could do like a darken, like end scene. So very important to keep that in mind. Maybe you want to like at the end of your video, it slowly gets darker and then you can use another clip to go to another scene. I saw some guy earlier in the comments who wanted to make a Netflix video on Deforum, like full length. Like you're going to need to do a lot of separate clip renders on this, so get your transitions in. Now with this alpha, this is the blending of those two videos. So, sorry, not of the two videos. This is the blending of the input video and the generated piece of it. So you really need to make sure that this is closer to a lower number to get half-half, basically. When I was doing these videos, this is actually very low. So this was like 0.3. So you can hardly see any of the original video in it. But when we're looking at some of the other stuff, this one was also actually quite low. So just keep in mind that you're going to want to try different settings. Oh, and here's the Jello. I mean, everyone wants to see the Jello. This is the Jello. So I was making some like underwater stuff with it, but that's what high frame interpolation looks like. Okay, so we're going to lower that comp alpha, and I think we're good. Let's give it a go. Fingers crossed. All right, seems to be cruising. We did generate another video here with the 3D, so we can check it out. Give it a second to load there. Should we do some giveaways?
Yeah, let's do I got another 50, a 20, and 4 10s to give away.
Ooh, all right.
We got let's do another 50. Why not?
Yeah.
All right. Should we do another keyword then? What keyword should we have them throw in?
Hybrid.
All right, let's see hybrid. Let's see. And then also we do it'd be good to do some Q&A here too. So maybe actually after we do the hybrid, we'll do the Q&A because otherwise I'll probably miss the questions.
Yeah, definitely. And then I'll just run through really quick as well. I know we've gone quite a while here, but I think there's some really important tools that we can just like maybe throw in at the end, like a few mentions for some cool tools in the ecosystem.
Cool.
Can I full screen this? No. I think there's a way. Anyways.
That little square there next to the 3 dots doesn't do it?
It's grayed out now. Gotcha. It's like, yeah, it doesn't do it in here. But you can see we've got the 3D stuff. I really love, it's like, it's not perfect, the depth map, and I think ControlNet is going to really change the game for 3D because it's going to use like a much better depth map. I've actually seen lots of other new depth map models coming that have like more detail in them as well. So I'm guessing SDXL and other things are really going to take this 3D realm into a new space.
All right, so we have a winner. We have Lionel, Lainol. You just won $50 credit to run-diffusion. Let me make a quick note of that.
Woo! Big bucks. All right, Lionel, we're expecting a movie. Full movie now. No pressure.
And then I'm going to roll it one more time for a 20. We got Gert K. Nielsen. You just won 20.
All right, Gert.
All right, I got a handful of $10 left, and I'll save those for towards the end. But now I think would be a good time if you do have questions while we're waiting for some of this stuff to process. Throw your questions in for huemin and for revolved, and we'll make sure we get them answered here.
This one ended up cool. Whoa! This is like some of the settings. I messed around with it a bit, so you can see it's really getting a bit wilder now. Woo! Very fun.
That's cool. So somebody was asking, this is a question that popped in earlier. How do you add the music to it? I know there's a feature in there to be able to add some music to the videos as well.
Yep. In this output, you can specify a soundtrack to add to it. I personally like doing it after the fact because I can, actually line it up to the video a little bit better. Which brings me to talk about a few cool things that you can do with music. So let's just go over those really quick. There are a number of different tools for it. So they're third party. So here's an example of keyframe generator. So this will actually parameterize and give you a math equation or this. You can see that the string is up there. Or sorry, down here, there's a string. So that saves you a lot of time if you're trying to figure things out. There is an audio keyframe generator linked from there as well. So you
wait,
have it.
Go back real quick. The string that you just generated, what are you actually generating that for again? Just I want to clarify here.
Let's say let's say I had 100 frames and I wanted to adjust the strength parameter over the course of that.
Okay.
So now, I've got my idea of what I want this to increase to 30, then 64, then 77, or that's the frame number, I guess. But if you come down here, you can see that's the keyframes. And I could pop that into the quote. You keep it in disco format, but not into the parameter. Whatever parameter I want. It could be x-axis movement, y-axis movement, strength, hybrid schedule, whatever it is. So
that's really cool.
Yeah, it's great for getting wild things really fast.
Huge time saver.
Yeah. Now that's an early one. Here's a really wild one. So this one's more for like beat generated stuff. So if you know the BPM, you can like pop it in here. 120 is really popular for like house and stuff like that. So obviously we don't want it that fast, but you can also change the frame rate. So since we're on 15, it could be like something like that, 120 frames. So the sync rate, this will be really familiar to like music producers and stuff. And then you can actually, this is stuff that I do on my synths all the time where I'll modulate it with like another wave. So then the waves will change and collide with each other and create something new. But you can also load a file here. So if we wanted, we could load some music, lock in the tempo and frame rate and have it like automatically generate this. And then boom, we've got down here all of our frames.
That is so cool.
Beat generated. Yeah.
That is so cool. So now the video that it spits out from Deforum, like some of the transitions and the movements or the changes and angles or whatever you're doing will change with the beat of the music.
Yep. And it will be any parameter you want. So you could have it like camera movements. You can have it like, get to a certain point and then like change it at a certain frame, put in some different movements in there. You can make it like beat, maybe like beat, like generating. Like it'll go like faster generations and then slower generations depending on the beat and stuff like that. So a lot of really, really awesome stuff.
Just for like a real practical example, can you show us where you would copy from here and where you would paste it inside of Deforum?
Yep. So copy keyframes or formula. So see here we get the complex math version.
Mm-hmm.
Then I just go back to here and like, let's say down here, I wanted to make it the strength parameter. Boom.
Very cool. And you can set that on, you know, like the x-axis movement or the y-axis movement or the zoom or any of that.
Exactly.
And
Very cool.
that math function is exactly what you're seeing up above the graph. So it's an equation that describes exactly this.
That is cool. That just blew my mind right there. These last two websites you showed me are just like, holy crap, man. That's so cool.
Oh yeah. Now there is extra hard mode for super advanced folks. I will just mention it, but there's this tool called Parseq that they brought in recently, which is completely nuts and very, very intense. Where is Parseq here? I haven't used it much at all. Motion, that's right. No, where is it? Human,
Yeah.
where is Parseq?
I'm not sure. They rearranged things.
They do rearrange things all the time. SD Parseq. See the Parseq section in the keyframes tab. Guided images. Did it just disappear? Oh, you know what it is? I think we rolled out a fix to Deforum prior to the show, and it might have disabled Parseq. But I'll show you what Parseq is, because if you thought that was crazy, wait till you see this stuff. So this is like mega complicated, heavy math stuff. But you can basically put everything in here: load settings, save settings, audio analyzer, and you can do a lot of crazy stuff, like more working with frames and time. And you can be like, okay, at this time I want to change this. You know, people ask me that a lot, like, how do I do frames versus time and that kind of stuff. Like here you can see a graph that will show you frames and where you're at. So I don't do much of this, to be honest. In my like work and what I'm doing with video art, like I find like a lot of the automatic beat stuff to me doesn't work with the art style that I do. So I'm just more like, I like to turn knobs at the speed that I'm generating stuff. And when we get to distilled, I heard someone mention at some point the 30 frames per second stable diffusion stuff. So we'll get some crazy, like you'll be able to do this live, like with knobs, and it's going to be nuts.
Wow.
So here's our hybrid one, which came out, you know, like maybe it's a bit flashy. It's going to be a little bit like glitchy, but you can see like a lot of the original video came through, and it's a bit crushed. So maybe we can try this a little bit lower and adjust the strength a bit. Not sure higher or lower actually at this point, 8.6. But we'll give it another go here. See what we come up with. Was there other tools I wanted to mention? Oh, yes. So there's a fantastic docs thing here. Mention. So this guide is pretty good. There's also docs on the Discord, but this one goes over a lot of the settings in detail. So highly recommend it. We can like probably pop these in the video description. Hey, Matt?
Yeah. Any sort of links that we mentioned, we'll try to get into the description once we're done recording here.
Yeah. All right, cool. Should we go to questions, and I'll just keep working on stuff while we're chatting?
Yeah, if you have any questions, pop them into the chat, and we'll do some Q&A here while we got Huemin and Revolved both on. So Styx is asking, how do we find Parsec? So when it is actually available?
It's like on the bottom of this keyframes tab. It's like down here under perspective
Gotcha.
flip, I believe. Yeah.
Let's see. David is asking, when you hit generate, where's the processing happening on your local machine? No, this is on run-diffusion. So run-diffusion is actually cloud GPU. So this is all happening in the cloud.
Yeah, which is great, because if we were trying to crush these videos locally, we might be like glitching out on the live stream and stuff like that.
Oh, for sure. In fact, this is so Tinkered Thinking is asking, can you explain what a seed is? And this is actually something that I get asked quite a bit, especially when I'm talking about things like Midjourney and Stable Diffusion, is what the hell is the seed? Maybe one of you guys could probably explain it better than I can, because I've tried a few times.
I could explain it.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so when you're making like a diffusion, right? You're starting from noise, and you're sort of like diffusing the image from that starting noise. But that starting noise can be sort of like any random pattern you want. And to sort of keep the model scientific, what they do is they use like a pseudo random number generator, which takes a number or a seed as an input to sort of control the randomness of this noise generating process. And so when they train the model, they're training it on random noise. When you're inferencing the model, you can specify a seed number, which will essentially determine what that noise pattern will look like. Does that sort of explain it?
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a great description of it. My knowledge of what a seed is mostly comes from like playing games with random map generators.
Yeah,
Like back like Minecraft, you can
exactly.
put
Yep.
in a seed, and if you put in the seed, you get the same thing. It's like a point in the randomness that you can choose from. So if you choose the same seed, that's a way to get consistent generations. If you do a fixed seed and then you specify it, then when you're creating a Deforum video, if you're like, oh, I kind of like this one, I want to get it like pretty close, but maybe I want to change like the strength or the frame rate or anything like that, you can go back to that same seed because you used fixed and then carry off from where you were, or redo it.
Yeah, the Corridor Crew video that you mentioned earlier as well, where they're explaining how they did that whole anime thing. They actually have a good like 4-minute explanation of how the seed works and how it starts off with noise, and basically they're making something that's really noisy and then removing the noise down to the picture they're trying to generate. And the random seed, I guess, kind of generates that initial noise that they're then sort of taking away to get the image. Their explanation was really, really good, so I highly recommend that. But yeah, the only reason the term seed clicked with me was also I've done a lot of Minecraft in the past, and you get a level, you get a random seed for the level, you could give somebody else that seed and they'll get the exact same world that you played on. So that's why it kind of clicked with me. But that question definitely pops up a lot. Luma is asking here about if this is going to be available in other languages like Spanish. So I don't know if that's something, Human, you can shed some light on. Do you know if it's going to be available in other languages?
So I'm not aware of any efforts currently by like the Deform developers, but if you can speak multiple languages and you want to help translate, I think that'd be incredibly valuable. Also, I think I saw this question earlier, or maybe it was like a similar question. Maybe you can use like a Google Translate feature if you're using Chrome.
Yeah, and there's also localizations in Automatic 1111, I believe. So I think you can upload a localization file. But one thing to keep in mind is this is changing all the time, right? So it might be best just to use the translate in the browser, like you were mentioning, or ChatGPT. I don't know, Cloud. That's another one. But yeah, there's a few different ways. So, but I think like if it's not translated, they will definitely need help getting people to translate it, put it into other languages. So definitely a place where people can help.
For sure. Then Kunal says, do we have to pay for the server? So you can install Stable Diffusion and Deforum locally if you want. I do have a video that shows you how to do it. The demonstrations that we've been doing on this video, we've been running in the cloud. The main reason we're running them in the cloud is because they do take a lot of system resources to run. And if we were trying to run these in the cloud and stream at the same time, it probably wouldn't go over very well. And also, what you can do in the cloud here are way better servers than you most likely have on your computer at home. I'm kind of overgeneralizing here, but I'm assuming most people don't have the level of GPUs that you can get with something like run-diffusion. So there are free options to do this, or for 50 cents an hour, you can do it on something like run-diffusion.
Yeah, I just want to point this video out because this was a question that I got asked like just before I jumped on. You can see here that it's not very close to our video, right? Like we put in a video and it kind of starts there. Like you can see her face, but then very quickly it just like gets crushed, right? And it's just like all these shapes, and then there's like a random person. So one thing is with automatic 1111, and I've seen like some mentions of this in Reddit and stuff, there are memory leaks in the application. And when you're switching from different like prompts, models, extensions, things can leak. So it is open source software. It is contributed by a lot of people, but there's so many people working on it. Sometimes some things don't caught up. They will generally fix this stuff. But I'm not saying that this is it. This is most likely a settings thing, but it could also be a memory leak thing. So just keep in mind, if you're getting weird results that look like crushed puzzles, it's something where you might want to like tame down your settings or restart the session. Huemin, do you have any like advice for weird crushed puzzle kind of generations?
I love the the randomness. No, I don't have any like general advice, but yeah, restarting sessions I think is a good way to just reset everything.
Yeah, and this can be a sign of like basically what's happening is it's like the noise is getting compounded, right? So you're losing the signal, and what you're trying to do is find that signal in the noise to have that like cohesion, or in training you would call it like the convergence of the like the perfect place where the signal meets but has that noise to keep the generation fresh. So that's kind of what you're looking for in the hybrid mode. I'll just shut that one down for now, but if it gets crushed, know that it could be too much strength, too much config, too much of something, or you might just need to reset it. So that's a common one that comes up. Do we have anything else to give away?
Yeah, I've got a handful of $10 that we can give away, and then
I'd also like to give away one more thing. So I saw this question, like how can I use custom models and stuff like that. So on run-diffusion, we do have the private storage available. It's like 100 gigs, and it's ultra fast NVMe, which if you don't know storage, that's like very, very fast flash stuff that's associated with your server, and it will jump from server to server. But it costs a bit. So there's a monthly subscription that we offer for that service. And let's give away like a month. Let's give away like 2 1-month subscriptions for Creators Club, and maybe pair that with the $10, get someone started. I'm just doing this off the cuff here, so. but I think that'll be really valuable to people to like try their own custom models and do things. Cool. Another thing I'll mention, when you're doing this, if you're getting it really blurry, it could be because of your model. And I actually have a theory on this. Some custom models just don't work well with Deforum, and I think it might be the merges. Like I get a feeling because like Protogen doesn't work well in Deforum. I'm like, that's mostly made up of merges. I'm thinking Huemin, like maybe that's why people get the blurriness from the custom models. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that definitely could be it. I know for a fact that models are just incredibly delicate. And when you're doing things like merging, you might get a better portrait, but you might also be like negatively impacting other parts of the model. I know for instance that like the V1 Stable Diffusion models, if you don't use any of the color correcting, will just trend towards like red magenta. And that's why the color correction is necessary with those models. But Stable Diffusion 2 sort of like doesn't have that problem. But it's really hard to say what exactly is the root cause.
Okay. Yeah, it is. It is, and it could be a setting thing too. But anyways, let's get to the good stuff and give away a
Yeah.
couple creators
So
clubs.
throw out a keyword you want them to type, and we'll do it.
Let's just say creative.
Creative. All right, type in creative, and I'll do some roles in a second while we're waiting for people to type that in, and we're let people get a chance to do that. The question has popped up multiple times now. Is there any news around
Ooh,
ControlNet? And that's
yes.
definitely a question that I'm seeing over and over again here in the comments. So is that something, human, that maybe you could talk about? Do you know what the sort of status is on ControlNet in Deforum?
So my understanding right now is that it's sort of just being built out and developed. I don't know of any sort of like solid release date or anything like that, but I really do think ControlNet with Stable Diffusion is just insanely powerful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and people are doing stuff with ControlNet already. So they're doing like batch image to image of processing things, which is incredible to see, and it looks great. And it blows my mind to think about what it's going to look like when it's like in Deforum, because it's going to be mental. And then you're like like what? Like I can't even. Yeah, it's going to be
Yeah,
crazy.
I'm excited about that, especially, because with the open pose and stuff, you can actually put like 2 figures in there now, and yeah, it's gonna be real interesting to see where that all goes. I'm excited to play with that when it's ready. Here's a question from Rando. I'm not sure I totally understand what they're asking, but they're saying, what is the main problem that stops from generating consistent frames and images? Is that something maybe
Yeah,
one of you guys might be
so
able to
that
answer?
strength parameter is really important. So if you're trying to make something consistent, um, try addressing the strength parameter first, and maybe reducing the diffusion cadence. But if you're trying to like tame that, that can generally help. That's a good place to start, because just think lower strength means it's going to go off on its own and do its own thing more frequently, and diffusion cadence means it's going to go off and do its own thing faster if it's lower diffusion cadence, meaning it's hitting every frame. So higher diffusion cadence, which means it'll generate less frequently, and then higher strength means when it generates, it'll be closer to the previous frames versus like doing its own thing. And when you start, everyone does this, they'll mess up and get like something that looks like you just hit text to image, generated like 120 pictures and then smushed them all together into a video, and it's just totally jumbled like 120 pictures. So don't worry about that, but just keep in mind that that strength is like the glue that will stick it all together in the image.
Gotcha. So Harry is asking, can you input images made in image to image into Deforum? I mean, I don't see why not,
Yes,
but
yep, absolutely.
let's see. I'm just kind of reading the questions until I start to see the creatives pop into the chat here.
All right, awesome. And this is
Uh,
the other 3D video. We got some, this is the up close, those like little artifacts from the generation process turned into these like beams, which I think is awesome. Looks very cool. Starts
that
in the
does look so
window and
cool.
then like ends up going out of the window here.
I very rarely see something that comes out of Deforum that I'm not impressed with. It either looks like cool in an abstract way, or cool just in like to me, like the colors and the contrast and yeah. I mean, it's hard to make bad stuff with Deforum, honestly.
Yeah, and
um,
you can create like custom models too. So if we wanted to, we could switch to some different models and try some things, but we'll leave that to people to try out.
So here's a
Um,
question.
yeah.
I'll just say 99 Jojo. How do we use different models inside of run-diffusion?
Yep. So when you have the Creators Club, you'll be able to load those in. We have connections to like Google Drive, or you can just have a direct link. There's instructions for how to download it off of Civitai or Hugging Face or anything like that. I don't want to spoil too much, but there are some like big releases planned for run-diffusion in the near future, solving a lot of the ongoing growing pains that we've had of using the platform like Dream Booth, but also bringing in some new capabilities around how we do the models. Like in our shared plan, which is when you don't have a subscription, you get like 25 models that you can choose from on the shared storage. And well, let's just say we were going to be reworking how that all works. So stay tuned to like kind of watch what we're working on next, because we got some fun things planned.
Cool. Here's another question for run diffusion. Do you also count the time I'm logged in or just the running time? So I'll go ahead and let you answer that one real quick.
Yeah, so you saw what happened at the start. Maybe if you were around, you saw I tried to spin up a large and we didn't have enough available at the moment. That's because you're actually reserving the GPU when you're doing this. You're renting the server. So it's like it's your server, which means you can generate, what you want on it within the, some level of, because we're a hosting provider, we have to take like certain concerns about what's on there. So you can see the terms on our website. But you get it, you get to use it for whatever you want, commercial purposes. We're just giving you the equipment to do this stuff. So when you're logged in, you're reserving that GPU, which means you are charged. If you just opened a session and sat there and you weren't doing anything, you're messing around with settings, you are charged for that time because you're reserving the GPU. However, what we don't charge you for are startup when it's booting. You're not charged for that because that's on us. We try to keep them as fast as possible. So you just get in there and can start creating, and also shutting down. But for the time that you have that server and the GPU reserved, you are using that time. Just make sure you're using these timers up here properly. There's notifications and stuff, sounds that you can use. So and you can also keep track of all your sessions on this multiple sessions tab.
Cool. This question might actually be for huemin here. Is there recommended specs for those that do want to try to run it locally?
So I think we talked about this at the beginning, but having an NVIDIA GPU will save you a lot of headaches. Like you can use Windows is fine. You can use Linux if you're used to that system. Mac OS, again, like you're not necessarily using that NVIDIA GPU. And you can also have pain points there as well. I think with Automatic 111 specifically, you can go as low as, I believe it's 6 gigabytes of VRAM. So you want to get a graphics card that has like preferably as much VRAM as you can, reasonably get on your budget. But I think 6 is the minimum.
Gotcha. Yeah, I run an NVIDIA RTX 3070 and it runs fine on my computer. But to be honest, I still go and use run diffusion because it actually runs faster and I can do other stuff on my computer while it's doing it. So I've heard sort of like a RTX 3060 and up is kind of ideal.
Yeah, I think the 30 series cards are a lot more affordable than the 40 series cards are. And they should be good enough to run anything locally.
Cool. Let's see. So Patrick's saying, I have a video of dancers on a black background. I still haven't even gotten to where people are typing in creative yet in the chat over here. There's a lot of questions popping in. So I have a video of dancers on black background. I want to change their form to dry flowers and plants. What would be the best way to do that? Is that something that would be possible to kind of have, I guess you're starting with a video. Okay.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. So I didn't touch on this much. I just sort of like, hey, you put your prompt in here, but I didn't really touch on the fact that you can go in here and put in frame 100 and now put in beautiful, watercolor painting of flowers on a pond, something like that. So might want to still carry the negative over. Maybe keep it consistent, throw in some of these. But yeah, this would be a good way to do that, where you would be bringing in that extra prompt, and then it would go from one to another. So I guess I've got this generation going, so we won't see it for a minute here, but we can spin spin another one up in a second. But that's the best way to do it in Deforum. This was some of the guidance image prompts you saw when they're going a little weird right now for the fun, but I kind of like where it ended up in this video. Like this part's really fun. The weird like camel and the skull and the cactus, cars, just awesome. So yeah, you can really take it to weird places just by using this to go to different places in the prompts, and then that lets you jump through. And you can use seed schedules too if you really want to like nail what the seed is at the same time as the prompt. That can be really helpful for getting a consistent image. Cool. Should we do a draw?
Oh, you're muted.
You're right. I am muted. Sorry about that. I'll go ahead and do a draw, and then we still have more questions flooding in, so I'll try to sift through them here. So this is for the word, what do we put? Creative? Yeah, creative.
Yep,
all right. So
creative.
let me just plug this in here and let me roll it. And this is for $10 plus
Creators Club subscription.
A Creators Club subscription.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. So we've got Nathaniel Whitlock. Nathaniel Whitlock.
Hey, he's right there. I saw him chime in with some questions earlier too.
Nathaniel. Just making my notes here. I'm going to do one more draw and then we'll go to some more questions.
Can you like set it over a longer period of time? Because you did have it. We did have it up for like a long time. Is that possible?
Let's see here.
Does it have like last 10 minutes or anything like that?
Yeah, so I have it set for the last 15 minutes here.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. Okay. So anyone who's set it so far has got a good chance. That's great.
Yep. So one more time here. I'll do it. We have Bill Stevens. Bill Stevens.
All right, Bill.
And then I got two more $10 giveaways that I could give away here.
Yeah.
And then let's see. Here's a couple more questions here. So Nat's asking, sometimes only the first prompt will generate. Any idea why that happens?
Maybe not enough frames. Like maybe your max frames not long enough. Also, keep in mind your strength can really play into that, right? If you have your strength going along at a certain time and it's like a higher strength, and then a new prompt comes in, it won't immediately change to that. So it's really important to like change the strength settings. You can use the strength scheduling. So one thing I've seen actually that's pretty interesting is people will keep their strength consistent, and then right on that frame and just like 10 frames around it or like a couple frames around it, they'll spike the strength low, and it will like generate something with this new prompt, and then they bring it back again and continue it. So that'll let like this like sudden lurch into the new prompt and then continue with it.
Cool. So another question that's popped up, I actually lost it, so I'm not going to put it on the screen here. But somebody was asking if you can explain what a model is. So we were talking about the various models, like 1.5. You got 2.0. We were talking about protogen. Can you give just a quick explanation of what those are for anybody who may not understand that?
I think that might be one for huemin.
Sure. Yeah. So essentially, like the model is the numbers or weights that are associated with this neural network. And so what you can think of sort of is just like a bunch of really simple math equations plugged together in parallel. And those equations have like a variable A, where it's like taking an input, multiplying it by a number, and giving an output. And what's really cool is like when you essentially scale these models and you have like a bunch of these really simple equations, you can approximate like anything. And what these weights are is they're essentially just the coefficients or the numbers that are used in this complicated math equation, comprised of like really simple neurons. And they're like trained in a way that they give a particular output. So you train on a particular style of images, and now all of a sudden the model can produce images in that style. And so like the differences between the models is literally just these numbers, but they have like a huge impact on sort of like the visual identity of like the output of these models.
Awesome.
Yep.
That's
And
it.
then with the
Go-
fine tuning of these custom models, you can train in just certain concepts as well. So that fine tuning just really drives in a point from the broader model of 1.5, 2.0, or 2.1, or now XL. And so the base model is really just this vast collection of different weights and trainings, but you drive it in with the fine tuning to get that custom model where it's got the anime style or the RPG style or whatever other style. We won't talk about those other styles, but yeah, pretty much the custom trainings can do some really wild stuff. And yeah, I love training stuff, man. It's so fun. You can do some wild things with it too. Yeah. Cool.
So somebody's asking here, this is a run-diffusion question. What are the various specs on the machines you guys have?
I did see we had an answer pop in there. So it's just basically changing the amount of VRAM and RAM available. Small servers have 8 gigs of VRAM, medium have 16 gigs of VRAM, large have 24 gigs of VRAM. That's basically it. And the industry's changing all the time. So one thing I'll say, if you jump on our Discord, we're happy to help. If you have any questions, we're happy to take suggestions. We want to make sure that this is a tool for everybody, so that we're enabling artists to come along and create things easily.
Awesome. Cool. So I think I've gotten through most of the questions here. It got a little bit crazy with all of the creatives in there. But if you have any questions that we haven't gone into yet, feel free to type them in. Even if you already asked them and I missed them, go ahead and type them again, and we'll try to get to them. We got about a minute left on this next generation here.
Yeah.
One thing that I do want to talk about, Revolved and I were talking about this on a call yesterday, is sort of where we see all of this going. Where we obviously talked about ControlNet. Somebody was asking in the questions here, what is ControlNet? And basically it's this ability with stable diffusion to get a lot more precise with what your image generations are. You can get the exact pose you're looking for on images. You can upload images and have it sort of trace the outline of the images and then make new images that follow that same outline. You can upload images and have it look at the sort of depth and create a depth map of the image and create a new image that follows that same depth. So ControlNet really is these additional sort of add-ons to Stable Diffusion where you can really sort of tailor and control the exact output that you get. And so when we were all getting excited about ControlNet being in Deforum, we're basically excited about the ability to do that, but also with Deforum. But let's talk a little bit about where we see a lot of this AI stuff and the AI video generation going, and what the future looks like for a lot of this stuff. Because I know that's stuff that we could probably nerd out and probably do a whole nother hour live stream on, but we'll try to cut our nerdiness down because we're almost at the 2.5 hour mark on this one. But what are you excited about? Where do you see things going? And I'll start with Revolved here.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the exciting thing about this space is the speed is so fast. I've seen some really interesting tools that pop up that just sort of hint at the future. So one of them is there's this guy who's working on a project called Discord, and he's essentially got a VR headset and the 2 controllers, and it's making stable diffusion images live as he's moving the controllers around. Human, I don't know if you've seen this guy, but you got to check it out because it's wild. It's a live generation thing, and it's all it's Deforum VR live. It looks.
You're talking about Scotty Fox's work?
No, it's a Ryan something.
Okay.
Yeah, Discord. It's a media server sort of thing that he's got running.
Oh, I saw that. I think I watched his tutorial video.
Oh, I haven't seen that. There's not much. He doesn't even have a Discord yet, but it's I just saw it the other day on Twitter. But it shows that we're gonna add in more tools. The Alex with Warp Fusion has video in painting going. There's Runway has video in painting going, which is really fascinating. Being able to take a person walking around in the background and like take them out of the video. That's just like really useful from a professional aspect. But I think that the space is going in a different way sometimes, like not just the corporate stuff, which is going to be very useful and we'll all get a lot of use out of it and, you know, be great for Hollywood. But, you know, I think there's been this big promise of this metaverse that never happened. We got this like lame like Facebook thing and everyone's like, yeah, I'm not using that. It looks like it's for 5-year-olds, right? Like no one wants to use that. But what if we could create our own avatars using Stable Diffusion? What if we could walk into a space and based on our conversations that's being picked up by like a bot, like an AI bot, it's changing the room to match our mood or what we're discussing. And as we're talking, there's like these generations occurring of like our conversation and like, you know, spacecraft flying by in this 3D space. So we're talking about sci-fi books and it's just like doing that dynamically on the fly. Or 3D shape generation. Like what if we're doing this now, we're looking at this like 2D depth map thing. What if it's like we're getting out there and it's like texturing 3D spaces and we kind of had this like silly promise in No Man's Sky of this like algorithmic space, but now what if we're doing it and creating our own worlds? And I think that's like really the power of, you know, the metaverse or whatever you want to call it, is like enabling creators to do cool stuff. Because that's going to take over rather than this consumptive sort of like Hollywood thing. You know, how many Redux movies do we need now that we're going to be able to make our own movies based on like Chat GPT scripts and just pop in there and like be like, okay, this scene is this scene is this. And it's like, boom, written, done, video, send it to the presses. It's going to be incredible.
That's what I'm most excited about, is just the sort of democratization of all of this stuff, right? Like the fact that anybody has access, like that Corridor Crew video that we've referenced a few times just kind of shows you that like now anybody with a computer can make their own anime and you don't have to be an insanely great artist. You don't have to, you know how to draw. You don't even have to know how to script. You can actually have tools write the scripts for you now that are pretty damn good. And I just think that is so cool. And, you know, I was having a chat with Robert Scoble the other day, and he was talking about how like this is all sort of working towards the holodeck, right? Like the Star Trek holodeck, where maybe we do it in VR goggles, maybe it's an AR thing, but we can be able to say, you know what, I want to be on the moon with my buddy, and next thing you know, you're in the surrounding of the moon and your friend is standing across from you. Like that's probably more of a reality than like the metaverse that Facebook wants, is that we're going to be able to just put ourselves anywhere we want. AI will generate the area that we're in. So we can be in different destinations whenever we want because the AI just generated it around us. And, you know, he seems to believe from all the people that he's been talking to and all of the advancements he's been seeing that that's what we're working towards. We're working towards that holodeck kind of concept.
Yeah, I think we'll be like, I've joked around that with the run-diffusion guys. I'm like, we're going to be like hosting metaverses and like AI personalities and stuff in the future. And, you know, our goal is to really like curate that experience. And like, you know, as specs will increase or whatever new hardware comes available, we'll pop that stuff in there. But, all right, Human, I'm so curious to hear your thoughts on this stuff. Like,
well, so I mean, there's a lot of what ifs, right? And there's a lot of really cool ideas floating around, and it's really just a matter of someone committing themselves to implementing that idea. And I think that's amazing. But I think I'll speak just like more in like the short term and what I think is a little bit more certain. And what I think is certain is that we're going to have all the control we want. Especially with these like 512 by 512 sized images, all the control we want. It's going to be like a lot easier to use. So you don't need to, know how to program a wave equation to keyframe the animation. It's going to be a lot simpler to use. You're going to be able to have all the control you want, and it's going to be really, really fast. I think that's where this is going.
I love it.
Yes.
So cool.
Oh, I saw someone mentioned this in the chat, but it's the MRI stuff.
Yeah, I'm actually not familiar with what's going on with the MRIs and Stable Diffusion.
God.
That's new to me. I'm kind of curious to hear a little bit more about that.
No, it's straight out of sci-fi. Like, Human, you saw this stuff, right?
I saw the title. I wasn't able to read it.
Oh my God. So like, they took MRI scans, and through the advancements from diffusion models, were able to like they would tell the subject that was getting the scan to hold an image in their mind, and then they were able to take a picture of what they were perceiving, read the person's mind essentially, to create the picture with a diffusion model based off the MRI. So like, without telling the diffusion model what it was, no prompt, it was able to determine what the person was visualizing.
Oh, I did see that. Okay, I know what you're talking about now. That was absolutely insane. Yeah, they're basically reading people's minds with Stable Diffusion now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think they like show someone a picture and they have that image.
Mhm.
And then they're like taking readings of their brain lighting up in different places. And you know how like some people have the ability to like visualize images in their mind's eye? Like I would guess that the same parts of their brain are lighting up, and now they're able to diffuse, which is crazy.
But you know what's funny is this is something that really changed my impact on like how I view the world. But like, not everyone has a mind's eye. Not everyone can create a picture in their brain. Also, some people like have like, when you're reading and you're like reading to yourself in your mind, like some people have that dialogue all the time. Some people don't have that dialogue at all. And so we're all like thinking like we're the same people out there in the world, but everyone's so different in how they perceive the world. And when it comes to tools like Stable Diffusion, Deforum, and everything, it's such a powerful tool, because people who don't have a mind's eye can now go and like see the things that they are thinking about. Suddenly, it's like a superpower for these people to now understand it and like perceive things in a different way. So yeah, it just blew my mind to like think of how everyone else's brain is so different, because in our society we're just kind of told like, oh yeah, everyone's just like a person, you know, you're a dude, a lady, you're whatever, you're just like the same, but we're all so different. Yeah, like what Deep Love is saying there, like,
Yeah, just
incredible.
imagine something and then Stable Diffusion or Deforum will generate it for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy to think about.
All right. Well, what do you think? Should we wrap? We've gone like
We've
quite
got a long time.
We answered a ton of questions.
I think
yes,
all of
I will
us are the
say,
type.
not
We're
everyone
all the
has a
type that
mind's
we could
eye.
probably go all day
Yeah.
long if we wanted
Right.
to. So
Totally.
cool. Well, I do have 2 more $10 to give away here.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and do that real quick.
Human picks the word this time. Is Human on?
No, I'm thinking. No, it's too much pressure. Too much pressure.
Too much pressure.
Deforum. Well, just do Deforum then.
Yeah, let's do Deforum, since that's the topic. So type in Deforum, and we'll pick a couple winners to get $10 in credits to run-diffusion, and then we'll go ahead and wrap things up. And while you're doing that, let me see if there's
this video here too. It looks like, you know, not only did we get ancient pyramids, but it also looks like some Mars maybe snuck in there, some Stargate stuff. We've got, it's very cool how the 3D came through, and you could just keep doing this video like forever. Do like an hour of this.
it's so cool. Like,
yeah.
I can stare at Deforum videos like all day long. I mean, whenever I am scrolling Twitter and I see a Deforum video, it's always a scroll stopper for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, also making this stuff, like I have to remind myself, like, oh yeah, need water, like breathe, like be present. You're not a computer, you know, but it's just like generate. Oh man, you just lose track of time.
Oh yeah. I remember the very first time I ever got into Stable Diffusion, Automatic 1111, installed it on my computer. I'm pretty sure I didn't sleep till 4 a.m. that day.
It's powerful stuff.
The first time I ever got into Stable Diffusion was just like, and then when I used Dream Boot for the first time and then trained myself into it, and then I was like, oh, I can make myself an astronaut and a Viking, and I can make myself into Superman, like any of it. Oh my god! And then yeah, it was just I was down the rabbit hole from there. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and draw one real quick, and then I'm going to give it another minute or so, and then we'll do another one. So we've got Django Marine. Django Marine just won $10.
All right.
And then one last one, and I think that's the last we got, and we'll go ahead and wrap her up for the day. We still got people throwing the word Deforum in. All right. Last time, Super Shoutman X.
Nice
You
one.
are our final winner of the day. Thanks for hanging out with us. Awesome. So anything that we should say before we wrap it up? I know we did a deep dive. I'm sure we've blown a lot of minds, and a lot of people are, their heads are spinning on what they could go and do with this stuff. We definitely covered a lot of ground on this 2.5 hours in. But anything else, huemin? Anything about Deforum that maybe we should say that we haven't said yet? Anything that maybe we should make sure to slip in there before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I guess I just like to reiterate that like this is an open community of just like-minded people who like to learn, like to play with these tools. And if you're interested in messing with AI, like you can be a valuable member of the community.
I love it. And I just love how the whole, the generative AI space right now is kind of in that space where everybody, it doesn't feel competitive right now. It feels very collaborative right now. It feels like, and I hope it stays that way. And I think it's due to the open source nature of Stable Diffusion and what you guys are doing with Deforum and stuff like that. It's everybody can sort of contribute and add on and bring new ideas to the table, and new models are getting developed, and people can put their models out there, and people can show their work and show the seeds and the prompts that they used, and everybody can just continue to iterate off of what everybody else did. And because of that, I think that's why we're seeing just the pace of all of this accelerate, right? Like the last what, 3 or 4 months, just the pace of all of this stuff has just gone insane. And I think it's because of that collaborative nature, that, hey, I built this, what can you do off the back of what I just built?
100%. Yeah, I couldn't say it better.
And then Revolved, anything else you wanna say before we wrap this one up here?
I just want to say huge thank you, Matt, for having me on, letting me show this stuff off. Like, I do this art like as a hobby and for fun. So to have a bunch of people on, it's like really, really fun. And huemin, thank you so much for Deforum and all that you guys do over there, because you've really made a fantastic tool. And I'm so just like happy that I just have access to all this stuff. It's incredible. So thank you both.
No, this has been amazing. And I appreciate both of you joining me today and taking the time, because this is something that, I've only kind of scratched the surface with myself. I did make a video about it, but even my video was at very surface level. And I'm even realizing throughout this stream that I even probably said a couple things wrong on the video that I was corrected on during this live stream. So, this has been absolutely mind blowing to me, and I'm excited to go back through and watch it a second time. And ideally I'll pull some clips from it and help people with some TLDR who can't sit through a full 2.5 hours of this stuff. But no, this has been absolutely amazing, mind-blowing. Learned about a ton of new resources. So I can't thank you guys for spending over 2.5 hours with me on a Sunday. This has been amazing.
Awesome.
It truly has. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for hanging out with us today. Really, really appreciate all of you spending your Sunday mornings with us and nerding out on Deforum with us. And, check out run-diffusion. Make sure that you jump inside the Deforum Discord if you're not already in the Deforum Discord. Jump inside the run-diffusion Discord if you're not there. If you did win one of the prizes there, they'll help you out inside of the run-diffusion Discord. And yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in today. Really appreciate you spending your Sunday with us, and see you guys later. Thanks again.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.